Please come to order for this workshop meeting of the Planning Board. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business is approval of the minutes of the February 21st workshop and the February 28th special meeting. Do I have a motion for the February 21st workshop?
28th.
There's two.
Okay.
21st, they show me not being there, but I made motion, so I guess I was there.
Perhaps.
Oh boy, we can edit that.
Okay, so we'll edit. Okay, so motion to approve the minutes of 2/21 with the edit to include Mr. Mattson as one of the attendees.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gibbs, seconded by Mr. Harden. Any discussion? All in favor?
Oops.
5-0.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I accept a motion to accept the minutes of the February 28th special meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mattson,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gibbs. Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Okay, now, old business, break room 248, Main Street, map 23, lot 82, findings of fact and conclusions of law. What I'd like to do for the next two items is Kathy will be the vote, since I did not formally attend and approve these. I've watched the tape, but the five of you actually approved it. So in terms of the formal approval of these, I'm not going to vote. Ralph and I did work on the findings with Laura Lee together, so I'll sign the findings if the board agrees to approve the findings, okay? So I accept a motion to approve the findings for the break room 248 Main Street, map 23, lot 82. Moved by Mr. Mattson, seconded by Mr. Harden. Any discussion? Mr. Gibbs.
Can we possibly have a clarification for what's going to happen on the covered patio? In other words, the hours are presented as being up until midnight.
Yep.
And will there be music there? Will there be anything that would be...
So you're asking for an addition to the findings? Was this discussed at all?
Well, I can't remember whether we got an opinion.
Mr.
Hi,
Hernakis?
I'm Spiro, break room 248. Last meeting, no one requested that we plan on figuring out what the sound was going to be like on the patio. So I haven't prepared to present anything as far as that's concerned. Obviously, I live in this town. I've been here a very long time. I don't intend on insulting anyone, getting anyone angry. I'm not going to be blasting loud music. The occasional rave till 2 a.m., that happens, right? But, joke, just a joke. Yeah, so no, I don't plan on, and I don't intend on making any of my neighbors angry. We're going to be respectful. I know that there's a sound ordinance. I know that is in the summertime at 11, I believe. I plan on keeping the decibel to a minimal, and then if it does become rowdy, because I have thought of this, I do plan on closing off the patio earlier and bringing everyone inside should it get rowdy. So we're just it's a trial and error situation. I don't know how loud it's going to be. I just intend on it not being loud.
Okay.
So one way for the board to handle this is there's a condition that's a standard condition in the findings of fact and conclusions of law that anything that was represented to us by the applicant can be held to. And I think, so we can use that clause as opposed to modifying the findings. And I think what's been represented is not specific hours or specific types of music, but a commitment to follow required noise levels and not to disturb the neighbors. That sounds like your commitment to me.
Of course, and I mean, that's the law, right?
Yeah.
And the hours are 4 to 12, right?
4 to midnight, Fridays and Saturdays until 1 AM.
Okay.
What do we have in the findings of fact?
We just have 4 to midnight, so we can modify that to say Friday and Saturday till 1 AM.
When's the last time can drinks be served?
1 a.m.
Pardon me?
1 AM?
You can drink till 1:15, you cannot serve after 1 AM. But, I mean, hours of operation, those are modified, changed, altered all the time. And you don't have to go in front of a planning board to change the hours of operation.
What's the board want to do? Do you want to add to the findings weekends till
I'd
1?
like to add to the findings, because we said 4 to 12 specifically that your hours of operation were.
Okay.
Okay?
So why don't we add that as a clarification? I'm not going to reopen the evidentiary
Yeah.
period.
Okay.
And do Friday, Saturday, 4 to 1, and all other days, 4 to midnight.
No deal, I mean, we asked you before and said 4 to 12, you didn't say to 1. That's why I want to make sure it's correct.
Right, but the hours can change at any point. I mean, I could decide to close one day, but that's just how it is.
Well, you're not anticipating to go beyond 1 o'clock, are you?
I can't by law, so I am not.
All right, so that settles. The change will not be to be open later than or earlier than 1 AM.
Earlier than 1 AM?
Or, well, earlier, later, I don't know which you call it. I don't know which to call it, but I think it's established. Okay, we got it.
Okay, it now says proposed hours of operation are 4 PM to 12 midnight, Monday through Thursday, and until 1 AM, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And Sunday?
Is that, we okay with that?
Okay.
Is that okay with that?
Sounds okay. If I decide to change my hours of operation, what's the, what is?
Brenda has to make a call whether it's an amendment. I mean, I think what you would probably do is when you go to get your I think what the common thing is when you go to get your victular's license, if you're changing your hours.
Yeah, you state it right on the document.
You stated it in
Yeah,
the document.
and I would let the board know that that's different than what you originally, proposed.
Sure.
With the reasons why.
Thank you.
And I think that's the way it typically works. And if you do something kind of beyond that, then, if you're having parties all around the area and block parties and bringing in bands till 1 AM and, like entertainment every night, now that's different,
Yeah, I'm sure the police will know before you do.
okay? Okay, with that discussion and change, are you guys ready to vote?
Okay.
All in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Okay,
luck.
congratulations.
Thank you,
and
guys.
good luck.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Good luck.
Yeah, and I'm going to give this to you. Okay, next on the agenda, and this must be your dad. Is that your dad? Must be.
He's not acknowledging.
Guess we're not talking. Hey, whatever. Friendly doesn't count anymore, I guess. All righty. Next on the agenda, Canuvo, Portland Road, map 9, lot 68, findings of fact and conclusions of law. I'd accept a motion to approve these findings of fact and conclusions of law. Moved by Mr. Madsen, seconded by Ms. DiPietro. Any further discussion? Mr. Gibbs.
Yes, maybe you could explain, you definitely say no testing, and then on the second page, number 9, you say the batch will be tested.
So let me explain that, because I helped write those findings.
Okay.
So we can clarify this. So when they're making the batch, before they get to the filling stage, they have to test it for potency, okay? But it's not a testing operation in terms of marijuana testing. They're going to send it to a testing lab, correct? So they're not a testing laboratory, which is what that section is for. They're sending their sample to a testing laboratory.
And
Do you understand?
Yeah. So they're not a testing facility within the,
Correct.
yes, okay.
Is that correct?
That is correct. Unlike the medical program, adult use is highly tested. Canuvo, for its medical program, has always tested up to adult use standards, because we think that's very important for folks, but I don't think that people know that medical cannabis is not required to be tested.
Okay, so what I've done is just put a footnote that says in item number 9, where it says the batch will be tested, I've put testing is sent out to an external lab.
Okay, that
Okay.
makes, that clarifies,
That
thank
helps.
you.
Ms. Miller?
So in other words, you mentioned testing as a step in the process, but that testing is off-site.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The section in the site plan that's in here that's not applicable is because that's to get approval to be a testing lab.
Mhm.
I think we should mention that within our motion at last meeting, we didn't include all the criteria for a marijuana establishment.
Okay, yeah, so,
Which,
you went over, so from the tape I looked at, you went over the,
we went over the
you went over the
manufacturing.
manufacturing criteria, you didn't go over the general
General
criteria.
criteria.
So let me explain to the board what I've done, okay, or what Rolf and I have done. I think there was a mention of the general criteria, but you didn't actually go through them. So what I've done is cut and pasted the general criteria, which were applied to Canuvo's original expansion of their adult use facility, and more or less cut and pasted them with some adaptations based upon what was presented to the board,
Oh, okay.
okay?
It's included in this findings of fact.
Right. So that's the section that starts on page, well, these aren't numbered, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, section 4,
Section 4.
okay?
And I went through it and it's fine.
Yeah, so obviously things like setbacks from sensitive uses, setbacks from residential uses, it's all still in the same building.
Mhm.
All the original
It's
criteria
all
still
existing
apply.
basically.
Yes,
Right.
okay,
Right.
okay.
All right?
Mhm.
Thank you, Rolf, for mentioning that.
Mhm.
Okay, are you ready to vote?
Mhm.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 5-0. These are approved and signed off. Good luck,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Peterson. Okay,
Okay.
next on the agenda, Mountain Road condos, Mountain Road, map 12, lot 18I. It says findings of fact and conclusions of law. That is incorrect on the agenda. I'm sorry, I should have caught that. This is just an update. The findings will be on the 26th.
Okay.
So Mr. Harden will recuse himself. I will appoint Kathy, and Mr. Harden will give us an update on how the plan's been changed, and he has submitted
Yeah, there should be,
large copies here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that large one. Yeah, there should be, yeah, an 11 by 17 I did, as well as, I think,
Oh, so this is,
that one there.
That's something different.
that's right there.
So who wants one of these? I don't think I need.
Yeah, I just need to look at it. You gave us an 8.5 by
That's what
11.
we had to do, is add 10 feet
Right.
there.
There should be an
That's what
11 by
happened to
17
it.
as well.
So we're good. Yeah, I caught it.
Yeah, these are the only things that Laura Lee handed
She's
me.
way ahead of us. Me.
Yeah, so I'll explain it to you.
Oh, it's over here.
Mark 25 feet all the way around,
I know, I just want,
except for where it is required to be 75.
So if you, what came into question was units 10 and 11. that it was a 15-foot setback to
Why
here,
not just 50 feet?
is what we thought it was, and it
We
really
got
should
no
be
issue.
25 feet.
Right.
So what we're doing, we've already basically in the process of conveying the land from this property over to this property. So we've just continued it on down and moved that back another 10 feet. We actually have about 26 feet here now.
Okay.
Yep.
So in terms of the plan, basically, it was easier to do that land conveyance than it was to move that building.
That's what I
Oh,
thought
yes.
we were gonna end up doing
Yeah, a
anyway.
lot easier.
So-
And much cleaner, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, it gives us a little bit more wiggle room in that corner. I think it comes out to a little over 26 feet now, by moving that back. So that's pretty much the final plan there is what you're seeing. It does take time, obviously, as you know, to do the land conveyance part, but that's a legal contract between,
Yeah,
The two
so I'm
LLCs.
glad you mentioned that. So what Brenda mentioned to me is that she asked, or Dan has proposed, that we approve the findings next week based upon the commitment and the maps here, but have a condition that the construction, certainly at least in this area, won't begin until the land conveyance has been legally completed.
Yep.
And that he would
Yeah,
then
and
turn that
just to
into
give you guys an
Brenda.
idea of the process, so you are familiar with it, when we start the project, we're actually gonna be working from this corner this way,
Oh,
just because of the ease of how the land slopes.
mhm.
So we're gonna be starting the project this way, so these three buildings will probably, most likely be the first three, potentially it's these three here, but that'll all depend on the
So-
excavator.
So we'll write I would propose that I write the condition such that it says, buildings 10 and 11, and whatever that is.
That's part of the septic field. for
Okay,
this
buildings
building,
10 and 11, and
The mailbox.
the mailbox area won't be installed until
Conveyance
you
has been,
submitted an approved land conveyance to,
Yep, that's
to
fine.
the CEO. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Any questions for Dan before we move on?
I'll move.
I think we're all done.
Okay. Do we have to approve anything?
No, we don't have to approve anything.
No, because we gotta do this part first, so then they can write up the findings based on
I mean,
that.
if you want to approve the site plan, it's fine. But I would write the findings based upon
Based upon
that
that
site
site
plan with the condition about the land conveyance.
Yep.
So why don't we approve the site plan according to its particular date, so we know which document that we're
Okay.
doing?
Okay, so I'd accept a motion to approve the site plan submitted to the board on, let's say, what's the date on it?
It's the 18th.
No, not today's.
No, it's not the date on the
Date on
map.
Come in on the
Would've been-
14th?
Yeah, it has 9/12 on it, which is not, it's just, they kept this part when they changed that thing.
That's,
Usually they have an update on.
Yeah, there's not a,
revision number
where's
on
the
it.
update? There's no
It's
update.
Usually right
Right
here.
there.
Right
Added
here.
land conveyance area,
Oh.
4/5/23.
4/5,
Okay, 4/5, got it.
okay. All right,
second.
moved by Mr. Gibbs, second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, I guess I raised my hand on this one.
Yeah,
5-0.
you can have a hand in this.
All right. Mr. Harden, you're all set. Findings have been drafted. I'll adjust those with the changes.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Are you leaving us
Yeah,
now?
I got it.
Okay, so. Did we do that in 15 minutes? Doggone close. Okay, let's move on to our workshop, starting with LD 003. What I,
Well, be sure to appoint Kathy now.
yes, I did mention earlier, but yes, I'll formally appoint Kathleen.
May I say something before we start? I'd like-
Depends on what you're gonna say.
I'd like to thank you for getting this, and then thank Tori, I guess, for getting the hard copy.
Okay.
And it made my life a lot easier. And if I was snarky, I apologize. Okay.
Thank you and accepted.
And may I
I
say one
don't
other
think you saw
thing?
the email.
Yeah. May I say one other thing? That when I read through this, it gives zoning a very questionable history because it associates zoning with discriminatory issues that have created some of the problems that we're facing. And I just want to remind everyone that Bridgton zoning is not old enough to have caused any of the problems that we are and the state are facing. So I don't think we should approach the zoning issues as something that we have to apologize for or change because they had an evil intent. They're not old enough to be dangerous.
Well, actually, in a number of cases, they said that we are already adapted to best practice.
Yeah,
they
the
did.
only one in which we hadn't was dimensional standards, and that has to do with the 2-acre requirement, which is a big bone to pick in a number of communities. Anyway, moving on. I thought maybe a good, so first of all, remember, and I don't think you were at the March 21st workshop, Dee,
No, I wasn't.
but you should have gotten this, and it's in the OneDrive. We went through a number of these proposed changes we had already talked about, and we were going to finish this off. So I think we should do that. There's not too much to do there. I think before we do that, it might be good to summarize what's in the OneDrive that's been put in there as materials. And I also gave you a summary page of the first Q&A session that was held by DECD today. Okay? So in your OneDrive, just going through these at least in the order I have them, the background material is essentially the material from prior workshops, primarily the February workshop, with our legal assessment, the state interim guidance, and the draft rules, just in case you need to refer back to those. Tori has included the habitat maps in a folder, so you can see if there's any sensitive areas there. There's then board correspondence that's more recent and related to LD 2003. Let me just give you the high cut of what's in there, because I think you'll be interested in it. One is a email back and forth between me and Hillary Gove, who's one of the people that wrote the rules, clarifying something I heard today at the Q&A session about subdivisions. The second is the Housing Committee hearing summary. As you guys know, I testified last week at the public hearing for LD 665. You got a copy of that. I've written up a summary of what happened at the public hearing, essentially. Keep your fingers crossed. With
You did a
some
nice
luck,
job.
they'll delay it for some amount of time. Apparently, the beginning of my talk was on NPR, so maybe they think it's important to be able to move out the date for LD 2003. Let's hope so.
Madam Chair, you said in your notes that there was an equal amount of people opposed to the extension.
Yeah.
Were the people that were opposed to the extension, were they communities or were they developers?
They were, it was primarily somebody representing a group. So a housing commission, something like that. There were some people from AARP, but they didn't specifically say they were representing AARP. But there was like 5 of them all in their AARP T-shirts. So it was mostly people representing some sort of housing authority or group or large town. There were 2 individuals that testified. And it's worth watching the testimony, but it's very long. There were 2 individuals that testified that weren't representing anybody but themselves. And their testimony was quite compelling. Both of them had personal situations in which being able to have an accessory dwelling unit was very important to them and to their family because of various, not necessarily hardships, but issues, okay? And apparently the towns that these folks are in, accessory dwelling units aren't allowed. That's actually not the case right now in Bridgton. They are in many parts of town, not all parts of town. Depends on the lot size. So those were very, compelling to listen to. The rest were more about, you guys have had the law passed since last April. Get on with it. We really need housing badly, and we do. And they weren't interested in a delay. But of course, I don't think they took into consideration what it takes, a small town, and we were probably one of the bigger small towns there. Kennebunkport might be bigger than us. I don't think, and Gorham was there, I believe. I don't think they took into consideration how just going forward without having a number of important questions answered is not easy for a small town to do because we'll end up redoing the work. And I did make that point. I was questioned as to, well, what have you guys been doing since last April? And so I told them.
You
And
said
I
you've
told
been crying.
I told them we got all the analysis, we got all the guidance, we got an understanding of it from our attorney. We realized there were a lot of open questions. We didn't think it wise to continue without having the answer to those questions, and as soon as we did, so we stopped. As soon as we had those questions, we picked the ball back up again, but that was in early March or March. So I think there was some, as I say in my summary, I think there was some empathy from the committee members. One committee member asked every single person up there, could you deal with a delay of a year instead of 2 years? And of course, everybody that wanted the housing said no. And the Kennebunkport fellow was the only guy that stuck to his guns on 2 years. I said, yeah, we can do it in a year, unless, the state throws something else at us.
Throws a
But-
monkey wrench at us.
But I would say it was half and half. And I would say, there's something like 4 or 5 sponsors of that bill from the House, and maybe 1 from the Senate. And that's a lot of sponsors for one bill. There might be like 8 on
This
there.
is
I
the
can't
extension
remember.
bill.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Had a conversation with one of the senators at the end. I explained to him that we really need the delay, or what we're going to be looking at possibly is not more affordable housing, but just a lot more, wealthy type homes expensive homes on the lake. There is a bill that the senator proposed to somehow get state money to buy down the interest rates for people building accessory dwelling units. I don't know if that'll be successful, but I mentioned a few things to him about that. So anyway, it was a very good experience. It was a very long day.
Thank you for doing it.
Everybody was, I think, receptive to what what I had to say and what others had to say. So, Ms. Miller?
Was there any other discussion about exempting small towns?
There was very little discussion on that, I would say, and I didn't get up to speak about it because we hadn't spoken about it, and I didn't feel comfortable going off the cuff. There was very little discussion. My sense was it's not going to go anywhere because the sponsor really couldn't, I think this was something that might have come from the Intertown group or a broader group of towns. And the sponsor really couldn't explain why the 10,000 cutoff. And it was pointed out to him that only 22 towns in,
That blows it up right there.
well, there wasn't good rationale. If there had been good rationale, like we did a histogram, we did a distribution of population in the state of Maine, and 85% of the population is in these 22 towns, then I think it would have perhaps been more convincing. But my guess, there was very little testimony on it, except against it, and my guess, and the questions asked by the committee were very pointed, so I don't think that's going anywhere, unless somebody comes up with a good rationale and a decent cutoff. So, any other questions about my testimony before I move on to some other things? Ken?
First, thank you for your testimony. That was a lot of work that you put in. I just wanted to do a little rant.
Really?
In looking through what we've been handed, the lack of affordable housing seems to be primarily centered in Portland, South Portland, Scarborough, and Westbrook. The question arises, does Bridgton have a problem? If it does, where are the facts and what is the problem? It seems to me, in what we're talking about, that we have a solution that's looking for a problem, rather than a problem that needs a solution.
Well, I don't know, so first of all, the law is the law, and we're gonna have to implement it. But, second of all, and I don't know if Tori has more information, I have certainly sat in other meetings. And the Community Development Advisory meeting is one that comes to mind, which has, how many members on your committee? 10, 15?
9.
9? Okay.
Close.
In any case, this has been a topic there on and off. It's been very controversial. There are a number of, and it's controversial is maybe the wrong word. It's been very, there's been very active conversation about it with stakes on kind of a number of sides. And there were a number of people in talking to them that approached me that want to live in Bridgton but can't afford to live in Bridgton, and so live in other towns and work here. Now, how many is that? You know, I probably talked to 3 people out of those 9 that was their situation. I know social media isn't, you know, necessarily always, you have to kind of glean the facts from it. But I have seen plenty of posts about people looking for housing. And it seems like, and looking for housing that's affordable. And it seems like a lot of people are having, this is just my sort of outside looking in, following these things. It seems more centered on young families. And, you know, again, I haven't like put together any statistics, but it seems like a lot of the places where somebody on Community of Bridgton Facebook page is looking for something, you know, they've got 2 dogs, they've got 2 kids, and they're a young family. They'll put out right what they can afford, and there just seems like there's not a lot of choices. So to answer your question, there isn't there's only kind of empirical data and feelings from listening to people from my side. I think it might be important to understand where we want the affordable housing to be and where it makes sense, and where we want higher density housing. I don't know if that, let Mr. Gibbs.
No, go ahead.
Let me
No.
say that 16 years ago, when my son was wanting to move here, which he did, but we looked for housing, and there was housing available, but a lot of it was old. We don't have a lot of new housing stock. And I think that that's one of the problems, steep staircases that are not suitable, things like that, that are hampering people. So this problem goes back for quite some time.
Yeah, I take Ken's point, though, that the statistics are very clear that the bigger problem is in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm saying if you look at our school system, where over half the kids are on lunch programs, because the incomes aren't and the families aren't there, you can see it indirectly, what the real true, and when we look at the average mean income for Bridgton, both are, for somebody that's like a bunch of us have moved from Massachusetts, it's really unreal about what some people are living. Kind of interesting also is Massachusetts is going through a law very similar to L 2003.
Yeah, Lexington, there's actually an article in the Globe that,
And this weekend,
yeah, Lexington, Massachusetts, which is a very wealthy community, one of the wealthiest, has grabbed hold of, and, it wasn't easy, it wasn't unanimous, maybe 60% at the town meeting. But they've agreed to have an extension of the T system or whatever come out there, the railway system, and build their affordable housing
Close
where
to it.
where in the centers of town where that goes out to. So that they'll put the higher density around the railway access in the town. And so, I mean, there's ways to do these things. I think at a high level, we probably do need more information, and we probably do need to write these so it's attractive for somebody to build affordable housing at higher densities in the places we want it, like close to the downtown in case you don't have a car and you work downtown. We don't have a transportation system, So I think there's ways to do that.
I would say one other point is that people that are having trouble finding housing, you got to include the pride factor into them, where they're not necessarily, in most cases, not in all, would be very vocal about the fact that they don't have, that the housing isn't here.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me, and I'm glad I asked the question, who was for it? Makes all the sense in the world. AARP is for it, because senior housing, or having a mother-in-law apartment or something in their home.
That's exactly what the lady testified
It makes,
to.
it makes all the sense in the world, because these people need, if you think about the natural migration in housing, you have people that are close to my age that are moving out of their big homes, and they need to go someplace small.
Yeah.
Or kids are saying, come in and move in with us.
So one comment I'll make about the testimony at the public hearing and what I picked up particularly from the committee, as well as people testifying, is that the accessory dwelling units were very high on the list of things that they wanted to see implemented as soon as possible. And that seemed to be of high importance to the committee. There's actually a bill to make that optional for towns, and that's not going to go anywhere. So I think as we look at these, this whole ADU thing is really important. I think there are ways to protect the town from undesirable or damageful, that's kind of not a word, impacts from the dwelling unit bonus, the one where you can get 2, 3, or 4 homes on a lot. I learned some things today in the Q&A session that certainly made me relax a little bit. So I think that's where there could be developers coming in or wealthier folks to build, large homes on the lakes and maybe small homes packed together outside in the rural area that we can make some reasonable regs.
Did
Well-
you say, Deb, that if a town encouraged ADUs, it would make it easier for the advanced unit bonus?
No.
Oh, I misunderstood.
No.
All right, but let me just mention that I've been talking about ADUs for years, and I have compiled some standards that I think would be very helpful in getting something that would have a relatively benign impact on Bridgeton. And Rolf, I wanted to mention too, and with your example of people moving out of their homes, sometimes you can't do that. But if you build an ADU on your property, you can live in the ADU, and then you can rent your home. So it gives a lot of flexibility, and it also helps people pay their mortgages, and and because it's totally up to the town to make these standards, I think that we should really concentrate on things like that.
So what I'd suggest is, I want to keep going through what's in the OneDrive. What I'd suggest to you is if you've come up with some standards for that, let's get them into the OneDrive in the LD 2003.
All right, I have them with me, I'll make sure Tori gets them.
That'd be great. Because we will want to grapple with that.
And
We
I-
did some of that at the meeting on the 21st, and we'll go back over that.
I also have some standards for STUs as well, which I'll give to her too.
For short-term rentals?
Yes, because, let me just reference something that was in this morning's paper. This is from Stonington. And they're having a problem with getting a church to sell their facility so that they can put in some affordable housing. And they're talking about all the problems they're having, which are not our problems, but this is just something here. It says the wholesale conversion of our housing inventory to seasonal and short-term use is a cause of a lot of our losses. 56% of our downtown properties and 80% of our shorefront is now owned by non-residents. And I think that this is one of the things, the short-term rental, people who are not selling their homes to, for long-term residents of any wealth bracket, because they can get more for a short-term rental for which there is absolutely no business standard. It's not defined at all.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah,
Because,
well, you know me.
well, the board has discussed this several times.
Right, well, I'm
So
going to
thi-
make sure that Tori gets
So
both
this is
of
what I would,
these.
this is what I would say, and this is what the board discussed or I guess nodded at the 21st meeting, is I think the board has agreed we're not going to retrospectively try to regulate short-term rentals at this point. That's a whole, I'm not saying we won't get there eventually, but that's a whole other ball of wax, especially with, we think, probably 400 of them existing.
Well, that's good news,
what
because
we-
that's going to keep me alive until we get this done.
What we can do, or what I think I heard the board agree to, is in terms of these additional dwelling units where you can put 2 to 4 dwelling units on a lot, and in terms of perhaps if you're going to have 2 ADU, we said we could have up to 2 ADUs so far now. No, we said 1. So, we might want to say for things that are falling under that allowance, it's not going to be allowed for short-term rentals, or maybe only certain types of, and only longer-term rentals. So we did discuss that as a going forward way when we implement LD 2003. And, you know, I don't want to, we will have to get to the details of that and how that works without it being really sucking up a ton of resources and another CEO.
Can I make just one more point? And
If it's
that-
about short-term rentals,
I would like to make one more point, because I have discovered that a better way to try to deal with this is to define it as a business, which it is. Because then there might be certain requirements as a business, such as permits, fees,
Yeah, I understand,
taxes,
Dee.
that would make this not a honeypot, which it is now.
I understand, we've discussed
all
all
I'm
of that
saying.
before,
Okay,
okay? So,
if nothing else, Tori will get this in her hands.
think about it in terms of implementation of LD 2003 at this point. I'm not saying we're not gonna tackle the other thing, but this board has said we need to get these other priorities done first.
There are really two issues.
They really are.
Just to go back to the first point before we move on about affordable housing in Bridgeton, that is a national issue. So, I mean, millennials and younger and older, but for the most part, you know, young families, they have a harder time affording housing just in general. They have loans, they have all of these things that, you know, create barriers. Also, housing prices in the market is not favorable to those
Interest rates.
interest rates. So this is a national issue, but particularly in a town like Bridgeton where we don't have huge industries, we have, you know, jobs that, you know, don't pay
We have
a ton.
Our service sector economy doesn't pay wages.
Right. So if we want people to live and work in Bridgeton, we have to provide the housing that allows folks to do so.
And very good point. I just would love to have the numbers.
I know.
Yeah, who is
Well,
being,
Tori, is there a way you think we can get some of that information?
We can try. I mean, I know that,
Can we do a survey like what you've done
Can.
before?
well,
Half
so
the
with the
kids in
comprehensive
school
plan, we're
live in
going to be
families, but
doing
they
a whole
don't
housing
make
chapter.
$45,000.
Hey, guys,
well,
one at a,
and where, do they live already someplace?
Wait. one at a time, hold on.
I was
Yeah.
just making the point
Yeah,
that half the kids in Lake Region live in families that don't make $35,000 or
Right.
more.
yeah. The,
And so I'm just saying, and you ask where they live in Bridgeton, they live in Naples, and they live in Casco.
uh,
So,
So-
Tori,
they
go
have
ahead.
satisfactory
So,
housing.
okay, folks, one at a time.
yeah.
So with the comprehensive plan update, we are going to be doing some targeted, you know, public outreach for the housing chapter, because there is an entire chapter dedicated to housing, so, that is one thing that we're absolutely going to be addressing is affordable housing, because that's
You
the
think
biggest topic in every town. right
If there's a
now.
way we can do some kind of survey sooner rather than later, that we can get out through your department, that would be terrific.
Okay.
You know, similar to what you did with, something simple, similar to what you did with the open space plan, I don't know how hard, but not like 4 questions, you know, 5 questions. Anyway, just something to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Or are there other ways we can get a cut of the demographics in Bridgeton? We must be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have income data and things like that.
Ken?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that it's very frustrating. And you look at, as I drive down 302, the apartments on 302, they're listed, they're open, there's signs, houses available. What is the problem here? And if I knew what the problem was, I would feel more comfortable getting a handle
Well,
on it.
we can try to explore some of that with the owner of those, but I think, you know, there's a group of people that you can talk to. I think a 1-bedroom is on the range of $1,300.
I heard it was
No.
cheaper than
I think
that.
it
It's,
is.
it's
Yeah.
about
About $900.
it's
I thought it was
1,000.
I think
900.
it's about 1,100.
It's 1,000, and that's within the affordable rental range.
I don't think it's 900.
It
Well,
might be under
well,
1,000,
we
but
need
the
the facts then.
2-bedroom
I
is
actually,
over.
I actually looked it up not too long ago, and it
I
wasn't
called.
bad for a 1-bedroom, but there's only 1 and 2 bedrooms, and once you move to a 2-bedroom, it was in the 1,400, 1,500 range. Those townhouses are gonna be more, and, you know, a 2-bedroom, a 2-bedroom apartment with animals and 2 small children, you know, might work. With 3 small children is even harder. I mean, you know, I just $1,500 if you're making, figure it out. If you're making $35,000 a year, that was, or $40,000 a year.
It's 35, which is isn't
Yeah,
it, Tori,
so-
it's
If you're making $35,000 a year, the
I'd
government
have to look.
takes 15% in 35,000. So take 15%
Well-
from 35,000, that's 3,500, that's about $4,500. Let's say now you're down to, with social security tax and all that other stuff, and the state tax, you're down to less than $30,000. Divide that by 12, that's essentially $2,400 a month. And if you're a family, or if you're a single person, $1,000 is gonna go towards your apartment, which
Single-
is more than half.
Well, single could handle it, family would have much more problem. Another thing that they're not looking at.
Single could handle it without eating too much or drinking
Oh,
anything.
well, without drinking maybe. But we don't look at these problems from a global point of view. For instance, the wood coming in from Canada has a high tariff on it now, put on it by the timber people in the United States. That has elevated the cost of timber considerably. Also, COVID elevated the cost of
I know, but
timber
that's-
considerably. Timber is a very
But so how
flexible
can we
market.
solve that problem?
The problem exists in other directions. A family of 4 cannot afford an automobile now. Automobiles have gone up to such a degree, again, for the same sorts of problems. The question is, where is the cause that we can do to ameliorate it here in Bridgton? How can we do it? And will the tariff from Canadian timber be taken off the?
I mean, we don't,
We don't know.
so
If
we
it
can,
does,
this is
then-
what this board can do. This board can control what it has authority over. And what we have authority over is to draft land use ordinances with support from others, or have them drafted with our guidance, and then hold a public hearing and make a recommendation to the select board. And further, there is not going, I'd be shocked if LD 2003 was repealed or any portions were removed. So we really do need to see how we can use that to prevent, how we can do things to both help build housing, and hopefully more housing means at some point cheaper housing, depending on where it is, like close to town, on small lots, so forth and so on, or, those are just thoughts, or, so that's one part is how do we help the problem that exists? Because the problem exists, and we can't control the price of timber, we can't control these other things. The problem exists. So how can we help resolve the problem with what LD 2003 asks us to do? And grant you, we don't have perfect information. And then B, how can we avoid significant pitfalls that we know would be damaging, or we have a strong perception would be damaging to this town? You know, and we could probably use parts of the comprehensive plan as guidance there, but I think we all know that if Highland Lake has too many people on it, putting too many things into the water, either from their lawns or whatever source, and the lake has a bloom, that everybody's property values will go down, nobody will want to use the lakes, and it has happened before, there has been a bloom on that lake. So we all know that if water is contaminated because we don't understand what our limitations are, then that's going to be damaging to the town. I think there are some ways to implement, and I'm not saying I love the law, some portions of it, but there are ways to implement it, I think, that can avoid some of those impacts. And actually, the Q&A session today was a start to be helpful in that regard. And the people that wrote the rules, Hillary Gove and Benjamin Averill, who are holding all these sessions, are more than happy to meet with this board, as well as the Intertown Group and others, I believe. So, I'd suggest we avail ourselves of that because, and they'll even review our ordinance. And I think they've been very helpful. They're very focused on, this is our job. They don't make any value judgments. And we will have the final rules by the end of this week. So that will be helpful in addressing some of the questions. So that's just my take. I don't think we can do anything else, to be honest. I don't think we have the authority to do anything else. We can individually, fight for our individual cause, but.
Well, I think you have a good point there, that there is nothing to do that is more reasonable than to adapt to LD 2003 for Bridgton. The problem is, in listening to what you said, like the lake blooms, unfortunately, if we allow too much housing in Bridgton near the lake, then we have to be reactive rather than proactive.
But what I'm saying is, I think LD 2003 and the rules, and some of the things I learned today, will allow us to avoid that. That's what I'm trying to say. So,
Did you tell us what
until
you
we
learned?
get to that point, and I think, the sky's the limit, in a sense, is if this board thinks we should propose something in terms of lot sizes and whatever, in the shoreland zone, in the site plan that protects the lakes more and avoids too much density clustering there, then I think we do it. And, when it gets the legal review and the review from the, assuming we have DECD review it, and they're not an approval body, they're just trying to help. They probably can give us ideas too. So that's what I would do. I would work towards doing that I don't think we necessarily have to accept that there's going to be an automatic impact. But until we start moving through this, there's not going to be a way to do that. In other words, we got to get rolling at some point. We have started rolling, but we got to keep rolling.
Yeah, we're doing well. Can I do one more rant?
One more, because there's been ranting now for approximately 40 minutes
Yes.
from various members, which is okay. I understand there's been actually a lot of good thoughts around the table. Go ahead.
Yeah.
One more rant.
My other frustration with this is the state is, an analogy to this would be the state telling us what clothes we should wear. In other words, the state is trying to tell Bridgton what it is going to look like. And we spent a lot of time working out the previous comprehensive plan and the land use code to try to deal with the fact that there were certain qualities in Bridgton that people wanted preserved.
And I don't think that we have to necessarily give up those qualities.
And I would
So,
agree. I'm just saying, I would agree.
Yeah.
One of the things that we need to do is, we've got a law that we've got to adapt to. But the other thing is that we've got certain things that we want to maintain and keep and protect. When we're looking at this, we need to take a look at what the law's objective is and what the community's objective is and what we want to avoid. And design the thing the best that we can to do all three.
and I think, will there be zero impact? Hard to say, but I think we can actually try to implement it that way. The counter to what you said And I heard it at the testimony, and I heard it at a CDAC meeting a couple times, from one person anyway, is we haven't addressed it, these towns haven't addressed it, these cities haven't addressed affordable housing and the housing shortage, so the state now is using a stick, and that's the way it goes. Now, I know our intent has never been to rob people of their homes, but there are other views in this town concerning that. Just FYI.
Okay, good reason. Just want to say one more thing, maybe apologies. I've been reading a lot of Henry David Thoreau lately, and so I'm going to be.
So what I just asked this board to focus on what we can do, and remember the comprehensive plan and the intents of these districts. I think we can manage our way through this, particularly if we get more time.
Yeah, I
Ms.
just-
Miller, and then I want to
Yeah.
keep going on what I was trying to do.
I'm trying to move on.
Oh, forget,
And-
let's
and
just
I'm-
all talk.
I'm thinking that, we don't have to be apologetic, that there are things that we can protect without people saying to us, you just want to have rich people here, which we don't. Remember, this is a working town. Recently, within the time I've been here, 2 mills have closed, so that people were looking for jobs. But we have to protect lakes, we want dark skies, we want walkability, we want mixed use. We've made arrangements for that. We've been trying to bring more industry in, especially since the mills closed. But one of the problems is the chicken and egg thing of where they're gonna live. So that's a big one. And we want year-round activity. We want a sustainable economy.
So, Ms.
And so
Miller?
we can put things in here, Ken,
So,
that will
Ms.
help
Miller,
us get that.
what you've just stated are some
Same.
some amount of high-level objectives. And so what I would suggest is, whatever you just wrote on that paper, get it to Tori. Because I think as we go through the process, we can look back at those and we can say, is the intent of the districts met? Is the intent of the comp plan met? Are we meeting the law? Are these strategic parts that you've talked about, are we paying the right amount
And
of
these
attention
are
to
not
those?
suspect, like they're suggesting with zoning, in this article, that all zoning is to get the riffraff out of town. This is a riffraff town,
I think, yeah, so let's move on.
Could I just, to bring this conversation to a
Yes,
close, and
please.
I promise,
I don't know how you could possibly promise.
I take
but-
it back, I don't promise. I just want to say that hopefully this will wrap this conversation up, is that I know this is, kind of poor timing where we have to get this implemented as soon as possible, but we are finishing an open space plan, and it sounds like what people want to preserve in this town is its rural character and its open space. So we do have a plan coming with actionable items to do that.
Be careful of the
So
word
that's
character.
exciting.
Did you read Kevin's article?
Yeah, okay, let's not revisit that.
And then,
Bring the
I'm not
2 acre
gonna-
thing down.
I am not gonna bounce anybody on the head for using the word character.
I know.
When we
I'm
get to
kidding.
writing the ordinances, we'll write them in the proper way.
okay, I
I know what
apologize.
everybody means by it.
Yeah, okay.
Could you explain the
Good. Thank you, Tori.
2 acre thing that you said, Rose?
Yeah, let's let Tori
Awesome.
finish.
All
Were
right.
you done?
The only other thing is that we are also doing a comprehensive plan. The RFP's out there, and so we are going to have an actionable plan in 18 months that we can go off of. So right now, we can use the 2014 plan, to make sure that we're doing all of these high-level things, but pretty soon we'll have a new one that's going to
Good.
be
Yeah.
very
So,
well
and-
informed
and
by
if
the
we get-
community.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
so moving on, and then I'll try to answer Dee's question. The other thing in here is a conversation between LEA and I, which I just basically said, hey, are you guys on top of this? And they may come to our May meeting or one of our meetings. They have the same issues we do. They talk to one lawyer, they say this, they talk to somebody else, they say that. That's why the rules really needed to be finished. And then there's this last thing in here, this DEP comment. First thing I asked about, and somebody else asked about at the Q&A today, was shoreline zoning and what applied and what didn't. you know, because it's very confusing the way it was kind of left open. And so they had already asked that question, or DEP had sent some information to them. That's in there, but the bottom line is, whether it's an ADU or an additional residential unit, or it's, you know, duplex, you know, whatever, it has to meet the standards of acreage per dwelling unit and frontage per dwelling unit, in particular, as well as other things. So
They
that
don't go away.
one of those, that cleared up something for me, which was an open item that legal had left us, which is, it kind of sounded, as long as you met all these other requirements, like setbacks, they could still, and they had their 200 feet of frontage, somebody could still put, and they had enough, you know, they had, say, a big acreage, they could put 2 to 3 homes on there, depending on what was already there. Well, they can't do that, for instance, if they have 300 or 350 feet of waterfront. They can't even put 2 homes on that, including an accessory dwelling unit, a separate accessory dwelling unit, and maybe even one within there. I have to read their comment more. So I don't know about you guys, but that made me feel better, because there's not a lot of lots with long shorelines around here. And it's, to me, the likely thing somebody would want to do, if they can build multiple houses, is put a subdivision in there, or a big condo development. So, but again, we can look at the shoreland zone, and if there's things we think should be tightened up in there, we can review that. Just remember, the legislative body has to approve all this. So that made me feel a lot better, and their comment is basically, if the ADU complies with the minimum shoreland zoning guidelines adopted by DEP, subject to locally adopted locally ADU land requirements, so it has to do both, meet both. This means that the ADU must meet the same requirements as the primary structure did on the lot. So if your town requires 40,000 square feet of land and 200 feet of shore frontage per dwelling, then to have an ADU on the property, the lot will have to have 80,000 square feet of land in the shoreland zone and 400 feet of shore frontage. So, there's your answer. And 2 acres in the shoreland zone,
Yes.
there's not a lot of those.
Not
And there are quite a few large lots. I did look at, I had Lakeside District to look at, and there are some very large lots around Highland Lake in trusts or owned by a single person. And I haven't looked at the shoreline on all of those. But one reason I asked that question is I recently was made aware that someone who has an eye on the bill and when it's going to be implemented was talking about, I'm not going to say names and any of that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
We can guess.
No,
Hypothetical.
don't guess, please don't guess. The bottom line is, the thought was that once the new law was implemented, that 2 homes could be put on this single lot on the waterfront. And that's only possible if there's 400 feet of frontage and, of course, the required size.
80,000 feet.
And I actually looked at that lot, I'm not gonna say where it is, and it doesn't have the frontage, it does have the lot size. So, I think there's also, you know, the important thing about these workshops and the important things about getting public participation, which we haven't had much, thank you, Kevin, is that, we're gonna need to do some education here, because, and this is, the biggest problem with if we have to start in July is it's gonna be very haphazard, because people are gonna come in here thinking one thing about the law, and we're gonna tell them something else about the law.
Yeah.
So there's that in the DEP comment. Did that answer your question, Dee? You said something, yeah.
Yeah, that's good, thank you.
The other thing you should know, in the back and forth I had with DECD on subdivisions was because of something I heard during the Q&A. And if somebody's gonna put 3 residences, whether it's an ADU or individual homes on a lot, they will trigger subdivision regs. So it won't just be a permit for a residence, and that that was very unclear. So it doesn't, you can look at what was written, but if it's one of the lots where there's a house and you can put 2 more on, that goes to subdivision. If it's a house and they want to put 2 ADUs out, that goes to subdivision. So there is quite a bit of protection there in the subdivision.
Does an empty lot go to subdivision if they're going?
If they put 3 or 4, well, they would either be putting, if it's empty, it's either gonna be 2 or 4. So if it's 4, it goes to
Goes to
subdivision.
subdivision, yeah.
So help me here.
Yeah.
So we've got
Just a minute, Dee, let me, Rolf.
so we've got a lot anywhere, it's got a house on it, and they put 2 ADUs on it, it requires a subdivision.
Correct. So let me read to you what, have people read this? If they have, then.
But
Example 1, empty lot qualifies for 3 dwelling units. And we're just going to say that it's in a growth area, but the lot size is such that they can only put 3 on it. This triggers subdivision regs, correct. She said correct. Example 2, Lot 1 has a dwelling unit on it and qualifies for 2 additional units on the same lot for a total of 3. Does it trigger subdivision? Yes, she said subdivision law is likely triggered.
Who's saying this?
DECD, the people that wrote the rules. So they should understand the law.
we,
Well, I mean,
I mean, honestly, that in a sense blows the whole thing up.
it certainly,
It does.
certainly, but we can put in the subdivision if we want to, or put in the code in a different spot, that accessory dwelling units will have different standards. And I think this is something Dee was talking about,
Yeah.
than the typical subdivision standards.
It's still, I don't mean to rant here.
No, it's a barrier, it's a barrier, it's a barrier.
An ADU is an ADU. So an accessory dwelling unit, what I'm hearing here, there's 2 accessory dwelling units and a house on a lot that's gonna be created. And any manifestation that you do.
Well, wait, I might have gotten ahead of myself. So I said 2 additional units, meaning dwelling units for 3. And she said, yes, likely. And I said, the lot qualifies for 2 additional dwelling units, therefore does not fall under subdivisions. She says, subdivision laws would likely apply if there is 1 existing unit on the lot and then 2 additional units are added to the lot. But if an empty lot, for example, qualifies for the construction of 2 units only, then subdivision law would not apply.
Does not apply.
Let's make sure I wasn't wrong. Does the addition of 2 ADUs to a lot with 1 single-family dwelling trigger subdivision regs? Yes, subdivision laws likely would apply with the addition of 2 ADUs on a lot with a single-family home. And I think the reason for that is she's interpreting my question properly, which is the ADU is not within a structure, it's 2 separate structures.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, had to
Okay,
be separate.
now, first of all, we already agreed we only wanted to start with 1 ADU, attached or detached, until we understood more about what would happen.
So if one of those ADUs is attached, does it require subdivision?
No,
I don't think so, no, because it's in 1 building. It's the
So essentially,
separate,
it's a
it's a duplex.
multi-family house.
It becomes a duplex, is what I think. you know, in a sense, it's
And if
it's
three
handled
were
like a
on,
duplex.
if three were all attached,
That then, if it's a if it, these are good questions for the attorneys in DECD. It depends. Right now,
and they're both the new two additions that are
right now,
attached.
a multifamily dwelling is defined in our ordinance as 3 dwelling units in one building. It doesn't say whether they're ADUs or not. It could very easily be one large main house with 2 attached
Could be a top-
subservient
On the attached
ADUs.
garage above and
In
in the
that
basement.
case, they would have to come, if it was still classified that way, it would come, it could come, I shouldn't say would come, to site plan.
It would.
So, right now, that's how it's handled. So I think one of the things we can decide as we go along is if we have a good set of criteria for ADUs, particularly if they're attached, and right now, we're only talking 1, and so, then, you know, we may decide the reviewing authority doesn't have to be this board.
CEO.
Yeah, but I think we need to be careful about that.
Yeah.
You know, we
Well-
need to make
Well,
sure
it all
there's
depends
clear
on-
criteria
Yeah.
that the CEO can follow.
It all depends on how the ordinance is
And of course,
written.
remember, they still have to have plumbing,
Right.
and they still have to, you know, they still have to follow all the wastewater rules. D,
Yeah, you're getting near what I wanted to ask, and I've asked before, because I'm afraid of the mushroom effect, you know, where little dwellings are just popping up all over the place. And I was wondering if it's possible, or we could address, that a small lot, let's say 2 acres or less, if 2003 says, you know, any lot that has one house can have, one dwelling can have 2 dwellings, could the board say that on a smaller lot, that that additional, whatever it's called, not an ADU, just the additional dwelling allowance, is that what it's called? Can be in one building. In other words, it has to be attached, rather than have on a small lot.
I don't think we can say,
Two
I don't think the
structures?
law will allow us to say that.
You
The law will
can't?
not allow that.
So that would mean on a small lot, there'd be 2 homes rather than 1 duplex?
That's the way that dwelling unit addition works. I think we have a choice with ADUs, I don't think we have a choice with the dwelling units, period.
Because I don't think that was ever addressed. I've asked that question twice.
Yeah, no, it's in the rules.
Well, it seems to me
I
that
can find the rules.
the landscape would become extremely cluttered if, I know you can build a house on less than an acre, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
But
You can build it on 5,000
if
square feet.
this was taken to its
In the village or in the
largest
downtown district,
extent,
for sure.
you'd have a lot of, you know,
And that's
a
where you
lot
want
of
this stuff.
plink,
Hold on,
plink,
guys.
plink. And I don't know, and it's even cheaper to build a multifamily dwelling than it is to build 2 dwellings.
Yeah, maybe I can answer some of that.
Please.
I've been researching the downtown village neighborhood, which is the streets, you know, South Street down to Main Street, things like that. A lot of those lots are .2 acres. That seems to be pretty much a standard for about the time a lot of them were built, the turn of the last century. So,
It's
and
8,000
some,
square
Yeah,
feet.
8,000
right,
square
some of them were pretty large
They
houses.
are large, yeah.
And you're right, sometimes the distance between them on some of the side streets, it probably wouldn't meet current day setbacks, but of course they're grandfathered. But that's pretty much what we're seeing around here. And then when you get on the outer streets, like North High Street and South High Street, some of the ends of Wayside, things like that, the lots get bigger. There are some, like, I wouldn't call them spaghetti lots, but my lot, I've got 400 feet on the road, and I go back a couple thousand feet.
Yeah, that's,
So
Yeah.
to answer
South by
Dee's,
Southwest.
Any
to answer Dee's
additional-
question, and then I'm going to this
Can I
sheet
just
of
ask
paper here.
Kathy one more thing? So
Yeah,
if you
hold on,
wanted to
Dee,
put in.
whoa, time out, could you please?
Sorry.
I know workshops can be wilder, but just, if I can finish.
I'll ask her.
So LD 2003 defines dwelling unit as currently, it means any part of a structure which through sale or lease is intended for human habitation, including single-family, multifamily, condos, timeshare units, and apartments. So to answer your question, this dwelling allowance can be met in a single structure. I don't know, though, that we can define by lot size that it has to be a single structure, so we can get that clarification from
Okay.
legal. Okay?
Thank you.
So, Kathy, did you finish what you were trying to say?
I did.
Okay.
I'll finish what I was trying to say.
So I do want to get to this list, which we don't have actually that much left to do. Let me review a few things that came
This is
out
the
of
March
today's.
26th.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Let me review a few things that came out of the Q&A meeting, which you have in front of you before we go through this, only because it could change things. So I talked about shoreline zoning already. One of the questions we had is if there's an existing lot with only a commercial building and no residential structure, does it qualify for all this housing stuff? And the answer is, it does. The answer is, it does. I asked that question, they were very direct. They said, it doesn't have to be a vacant lot. If it doesn't have a residence on it, then you can put an affordable housing on it or whatever, as long as it obviously meets all the standards.
So somebody can put an apartment above a business
Well, they can do that,
and
yes,
call it an accessory dwelling unit.
yes. If we're, yes, because we have to allow at
If
least
the
one.
minimum requirement for a lot for commercial development is 25, I'm just using this hypothetical, 25,000 square feet, you can still add the accessory dwelling unit as a use
Yeah,
to that lot.
yeah. You can add to the lot, you can add a house to the lot if you have the size. So I
But
think,
Help me, no, I'm coming back to that. So you already have one use that's satisfied by the 25,000 square feet.
right, a principal structure, yep.
And so you put a house on it, that's another dwelling, that's not an accessory dwelling unit, or would it be an accessory dwelling unit?
No, if it's a separate house, depending on how we have
So how can you
defined
put it on a
dwelling
lot that
unit.
were, the
Well, are you
requirement?
saying they've used up everything that's available with the building that's there?
I'm just saying that we have a requirement that a commercial use has a 25,000 square foot building. Can we put multiple uses on one 25,000 square foot lot?
Yes.
Can we put a house, we can put a
If you can satisfy, the other standards, I believe the answer is yes.
Specifically what?
Septic, water,
You're talking-
setbacks,
Frontage.
other frontage, dimensional standards.
I mean, but if it's 100-foot frontage, just like hypothetically,
Right,
and you have a business there, it's already met the 100-foot frontage, is what you're telling
what we
me.
would have to do, what we would probably have to change in here is that we would have to say, we'd have to add a frontage spec per dwelling unit or per principal structure or something like that.
That's why I'm talking about this.
So that's a good point. But yes, we shouldn't assume that somebody can't add something on to,
Because otherwise, Dee, we'd have the mushroom effect.
yes.
And I don't think that's what the law is trying to do here.
So I wanted to make sure you understood that, because that's a big decision. It was clear to me that lot area can be different than lot size, and we should define lot area. So to,
That's net buildable land is what you're talking about.
well, we said net buildable land
Right.
in our subdivision, but I think you asked the question, can we put that in other parts of the ordinance?
And I'm saying we should.
And the answer is we can, and we just have to think about how we want to define that. One of the things I couldn't follow up on, but that was interesting, is DECD, basically, when they were explaining this question, said something along the lines, and the tape will be available soon online, said something along the lines that you could include things like open space, you know, and somehow you could weave that into your definition. So I need to understand that more, that's one reason. So I think what they were saying is if a lot area must have a required amount of open space after you've built on it, then, but I'm not positive. But the bottom line was, I asked her, so is lot area essentially a subset of the lot size? Because there was a lot of discussion on this, and she said, it can be.
If
Meaning,
you have this.
Now, there's a
Of course it can
definitive
be.
well, that's a good, well, what she's saying is, you don't have to do it, but that changes how things will be implemented. If you don't, so last week we talked about lot area, or last workshop, lot area per dwelling unit, but I personally wasn't sure how legally, how to express that in the ordinance. And this has given us clarification of how to do that.
So,
What
By
did they
having,
bring up?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt
No
you,
worries.
Tori. By having something that says net buildable land.
Yeah, we can,
Or we may define a net buildable area, or however we,
we can
define
define,
it.
we want to call it, at least, I think we want to be consistent and call it, because of the way the law says it, call it lot area or something
Right.
like that, and then incorporate those other
net
things.
buildable lot area.
and define
I
that.
think this is one of the most important things that we've got here.
So,
Because what we're doing with this is that we're taking a look at what we have for developable land
Right.
and make sure that it's truly developable land, that we're not adding excess
right,
land, that nothing could happen to it.
right,
And in a sense, those areas that we're talking about are areas that we want to protect anyway.
right. So somebody, same as a subdivision, somebody might have, 4 acres, but if only 2 acres of it are buildable,
Example's Blueberry
then they
Lane.
can't, they can't put as many homes on it.
Blueberry Lane's a perfect example, because one of the lots was all wetlands.
Yeah,
And that should not be ever, in my mind, it should never be counted towards the buildable area on a lot.
yeah, and luckily they're not. So before I get to you, Dee, Tori had a question.
Yeah, I just was wondering if they had mentioned anything about floor area ratios, because that's something that some people bring into the conversation, where it mostly pertains to having several floors, which I know we don't allow, skyscrapers in our town clearly, but floor area ratio is a calculation that you set basically to say, okay, if your building is 2 stories, then a floor area ratio would be the same as if your floor area ratio was 1-story building, but this long. And it is a calculation for open space, in a sense,
Like
but
a
it's a
footprint?
ratio. So,
I mean,
it gets a little difficult, but it is something that
I know exactly
people,
what you're saying.
I think,
yeah.
I know exactly what
if
you're saying.
if that's something that kind of sounds like, almost like a design and form element, right?
Yes.
So I think that can be done, I think. And I think if that's a way to sort of have developers want to build structures that aren't the little mushrooms or aren't these separate big buildings, that would be, that might be preferable in some areas.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the solution by any means, but that is just
But
a
we should-
calculation that
we should look at
exists.
that.
At least know
Yeah.
if it's.
Okay, Dee?
Yeah, I also was wondering, we use wooded buffers a lot for stormwater control and other very important things. And then we also use it as a natural screen. We had a lot division not long ago, and the question came up, is there going to be a buffer between the two
Right.
houses that are on? So what would be the status of a wooded buffer?
So two things, at our March 21st meeting, the board agreed, remember, we can change subdivision regs with a public hearing, as long as we don't get too far flung from the state regs. This board agreed that we would implement a 15-foot buffer around regular subdivisions. Right now, no buffer is required. So that means even if it's 3 homes, it's gonna have a 15-foot buffer around it.
Around the entire perimeter of the
Around the
subdivision?
entire perimeter. Okay, so we've already agreed to that. I think in terms of buffers, I think you can do it. I think we have to be careful that we don't use a buffer to defeat the purpose of the law. That's all. And, because remember, the buffer's gonna apply. Yeah, no, I think we can do that.
All right. Because that's going to have a lot of importance in preserving not the open space, the green space. And trees have a very positive effect on all kinds of things. So so I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, so I already talked about accessory units going into subdivision. The other question that was outstanding is, can we have our own municipal definition of ADU? And the answer is yes, as long as it aligns with the intent of LD 2003. So for instance, the subordinate and incidental language would be allowed, which we talked about at the last meeting, and we can differentiate between an ADU and a regular dwelling unit, which, and remember at the last meeting, we agreed that an ADU would be subordinate and incidental to the main structure, and it'd be at least 190 square feet and no more than 40% of the square footage size of the primary structure.
40%.
Which we calculated in most cases is gonna be somewhere between 600 and 800 square feet, max.
Does the state have any suggestions for the definition of a dwelling unit?
We're gonna find out when the rules come out, because that was one of the things that they said, but I think, they will. Their definition that they currently have aligns, doesn't quite align, but does. I mean, they say it can be all these different kinds of units. We describe those separately, multi-dwelling, multi-family, two-family, single-family, so forth and so on. So I think there'll be some flexibility there. I think one thing we need to do, and I think maybe I'm gonna pass something Brenda gave us, is we decided what an ADU would be, but we may have to think about dwelling units, because there's this whole small house law that was passed that allows dwelling units down to, I don't know, less than 600 square feet.
I think it's 450.
So I think you might be right, but there's also regulations around that, like it sounds like they have to be on a chassis or something. So I think,
A chassis?
I'm writing down, I'm gonna send everybody the info.
Okay.
But I'm making a note that we need to be sure we can discriminate between the two if we want to.
Yeah, I think the tiny home movement is that there's no foundation, they're on a trailer, so they're actually movable. I think that's the difference.
But they're different from a mobile home.
Right.
I will send you the law.
They're actually on wheels, so they could be moved at any point.
So they're immobile mobile homes.
Correct.
Oh, they're mobile, because they have
Mobile.
wheels. so
They're
they can't
mobile.
be
But
mobile.
they're
You can move
immobile
them.
mobiles.
Yeah.
Let's, instead of speculating, I only brought this up so that we could consider it when we have to get to the definition, further, because I
That's
think we'll be
important.
refining these definitions.
Yeah.
Non-conformance, sounded like we can make some provisions There can be some provisions of nonconformance we can apply and others we can't. I think that's gonna be a discussion with DECD. Lot size won't be one of them, I don't think. Somebody asked whether, not an ADU can be an STR. The answer was, we can attach rental requirements to ADUs if we want to.
Some communities have already said no on that.
What's that?
Some communities have in their rules that they cannot be rented for short term.
Yeah. And then, remember all the other rules apply. Somebody mentioned something, that there's some state rule that if you have 3 units with dwelling units within a building, it needs to be sprinkled, and asked the chief about that, and he wasn't aware of that, so I'll try and get that. So, that's everything that I learned today that could impact what we need to go through next. One thought, and I don't know if it was Kathy that said it, we might want to think about spaghetti lots. Right now, we don't allow spaghetti lots in the ratio is 5-to-1 on the waterfront. But we might want to restrict that when it comes to subdividing lots, so that somebody doesn't subdivide, maybe they have an acre in a district that only requires 5,000 square feet.
Right.
And then they subdivide that into
3 lots.
10 lots,
Don't say
or
that.
whatever, 9 lots, right? And those, for them to all face a street,
Can't do it.
yeah, they could, well, I don't know, it depends on whether they would have the frontage. But my point is, we might want to add a safety net in there of, you can't create lots that are flag lots or that are spaghetti lots. And we might want to look at the shoreland zone and see if we want the spaghetti lot spec to be not 5-to-1, but 4-to-1. So that's just
Right.
something to keep in mind, because I think one of the things you could see is people splitting lots into long, skinny, or odd shapes to put dwelling units on.
Mm-hmm.
Just, again,
Yeah, good.
it's nothing more than an idea.
But you wouldn't have to split a lot. You actually can have multiple dwellings on a single lot.
Well, if you have a very, very, very large lot, you can kind of split it ad infinitum.
Right. And would that require a formal split? That was one of the things.
A formal what?
Well, if it were in a subdivision, it would have to come to the planning board because a
Right.
subdivision is a legal entity. If it were just a big lot and it met those other requirements of, dividing every so many years, how would that be? Who would determine the division of that lot? Would that be the CEO?
If they're dividing it in 2, I don't think they even have to go to the CEO, they can just throw stakes in the ground. If they're dividing it in 3, it has to come to
Has
us.
to come to,
Yeah.
regardless of,
But what I'm
Size.
talking about is you have this big lot,
yeah.
and somebody takes it and says, okay, I've got a 30-acre lot, I'm gonna make 31-acre lots. In this district, that means I can have 2 houses per lot.
Per lot, that's
And now we
60
have,
houses. Right.
Yeah, that looks like
now
Venetian blinds.
now we have something that's,
Mhm.
I mean, and what it means is they could split the lots,
But they'd have to come to us.
to split them. They don't have to come to us necessarily if they're just gonna build 2 houses or even 1 house on it.
Yeah, but if they're gonna do multiple, then that's,
Isn't
If they're
that
gonna do
subdivision?
3 on 1 lot, yes, but we get a lot of subdivisions where they're just dividing the land. So my point is, somebody can
Right.
divide the land, make odd-shaped lots to sort of get around the intent of this law. And maybe we wanna make sure that that doesn't happen. So for instance, if the lot faces one road only, or maybe it faces sandwiched between 2 roads, the clear thing to do is divide it like this, so that one house has entry here, the other houses have entry here.
Yeah,
You can have 2 on each acre, and now maybe those lots are 5-to-1 with the 100-acre frontage that they're supposed to have, but it's not going to look very attractive.
mhm.
In the end, it could be
Levittown.
It could be 10 to 20 homes, all in a block, just
Mhm.
without having to go to subdivision law, other than to split it into initially. So what you might want to do is have considerations about spaghetti lots when you
Is
split
there-
lots.
Is there a year limit on just splitting?
5 years.
5 years, and so if they wanted to split it 10 times, they have to wait 50 years?
All depends.
But
Shape of lots might be important
Yeah, but
in
it
the
is, I mean,
future.
it's-
But Deb, if someone did that, and it was a literal subdivision, meaning, because we do a lot of those, where we don't know about eventual houses, but there's still a lot of stormwater engineering and other kinds of engineering that would,
Well, there's other things we could do, but
you
let me
could, you
remind.
could still use those,
Yeah, but let me
things.
remind you of a subdivision that we've approved. And when you drive by it, the houses look like they're practically on top of each other. It's perfectly legal.
yeah.
But there are no standards about buffers in between them or any of that. So it was done according to our standards,
Which one?
Kimball Road. And those had to be, and I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying if we don't want that, then we should be careful about the shape of lots. Because those lots are an acre each,
Mhm.
so they follow subdivision law when they were split. And they're exactly 100 foot wide, and they go deep.
Mhm.
So unlike Middle Ridge, where there's space between the homes, these are even closer together. And there's no buffer that was there originally, it was all a field. So is it bad? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If we want there to be some buffers, and like Dee's saying, we want it to be, say, pleasing to the eye for everybody, then you might want to have something built in that helps with that. And again, I might be showing my bias, I'm just bringing it up. Okay. Onward.
We're going to this page now?
We're going to this now. So Dee, that's in your OneDrive. And
I promise I'll look at the 21st meeting. My life has been rather weird lately.
it's in the, it's in the OneDrive under workshop material under number 1.
This is what, from the 21st?
Yeah,
Says for March 21st, 2023 workshop.
yeah, and it's in the OneDrive, it has the number 1 in front of it, so that it could be,
I don't understand any of this, so I need tutoring. You know that.
you
I
need
just
what?
see a lot of yellow envelopes.
Let me help you.
No, it's
Please.
not in a yellow envelope.
Uh,
Kathy will show you.
Yeah, is
That's
there
the
a
one you want
copy
right
of
there,
this that you can give?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, she's got it.
Will you come home with me?
Okay, so where we left off was on the 3rd page. And on item D, we had decided no more than one, whether detached or detached. Okay, on item D. So item E is where we're starting.
Where E,
E, define what districts affordable housing may be located in.
Ah, that's interesting.
And I don't know, so the way this question is worded indicates that legally we can decide that. I don't know that we can, so I think what we should do is decide where we would like
Oh, I
it to
have
proliferate.
Thank you.
And then legally, if we can make it so, great. But at a high level, what's the board think about where you would want to see affordable housing? Ken?
It would seem to me that affordable housing has to be either close to downtown or has to be on Route 302 with the possibility of any sort of public transportation at some time in the future.
Route 302, outer and inner corridor?
302, the outer corridor especially, because that allows communication between Bridgton and other.
Because most of the businesses are in the inner and outer corridor, but not in that mixed-use corridor heading towards Freiburg.
Yeah, that'd probably be more difficult to have it in the mixed-use corridor because of the lack of, available transportation. You want them close. You want
Right.
Well, in
Okay.
any growth areas, we've got to allow them, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dee, ask your question, and I'll look this up.
Well, several years ago, I talked with some people who were doing Naples zoning, or their Naples comprehensive plan, and they had decided on concentric circles coming out from their village, the higher density in the village, and then increasingly lower density as they moved out. Now, I know our zoning is not circular like that,
No.
but I would think that it would be very appropriate to put affordable housing as close to services as we can, for two reasons. One, there'd be a greater need, but secondly, it would be more expensive for the town to provide those greater services if they were at a distance. So,
So what this says,
I agree with you, Ken.
this, I think Rolf is correct.
You're right.
Eligibility, so we can have affordable housing anywhere in town.
Sure.
But if they want the density bonus, which means, remember, this is to encourage developers, to build affordable housing, if they want the density bonus of 2.5 times more dense, it has to be in a growth area.
It has to be what?
In a growth area, growth district. So that's the inner corridor, downtown village neighborhood, and downtown village business districts 1 and 2, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, if,
But not the outer corridor.
Not the outer corridor.
that, in my mind, that makes sense. That's where, if you want affordable housing where people are close to all the services that they require, you want them in the village.
Right.
Yep. Tori,
Alright.
any comment on that?
Yeah. Is there land available for affordable housing within those districts?
That was gonna be my point, is I don't think we should be limiting where affordable housing can go. I absolutely agree with encouraging it in the downtown area, but that may not be doable for developers because there isn't a whole lot left.
Yeah.
Unless
So-
unless they remove a structure, which we said we were not going to allow after July 1st, 2000, after the implementation date. Unless it's a business. If it's a business, they can remove the structure. Remember, what we said is, we agreed to the prohibition on destroying a structure and then going for the bonuses.
Right.
I think that only applies to the dwelling unit allowance and the ADU. Don't think it applies to the affordable housing density, but let me double check that.
But didn't we?
Doesn't apply to
define-
that. What we said is if there's a residence on there and it's knocked down because it's a dangerous building, then that would be exempt. And I think we said if there's a business on there and they knock it down and build housing, we said that's gonna be prohibited after July 1st.
I just wonder,
And I'm not sure that we can actually do that now based upon
yeah,
what they said.
I feel like, if there's I don't know, an old ranch home that's still in decent shape, could be rehabbed, but there's an opportunity to provide housing downtown or something, personally, I don't see that that's a huge issue if it's in a growth area. I wonder if you might want to just designate like historical significance rather than like,
Well, you
You know
could,
what I
you
mean?
could just, you could, I think you could apply that standard to certain districts too. You could say, after July, after the implementation date, you don't get the, so it doesn't affect affordable housing, it only affects the dwelling unit allowance, the up to 4 units, and the ADU allowance. So it wouldn't affect affordable housing. But we could probably decide on districts there too. Ken, were you gonna say something, or?
Yeah, I think that Tori was saying that affordable housing could go anywhere in Bridgeton, but we'd have to be a little careful. I think statistics show that a family that has a single breadwinner is now only about 15% of families. And so most families have two breadwinners and necessitate travel. And so if they're out in rural areas, then they're quite restricted in their ability to travel.
Well, in terms of remote too, if they don't have a
Yes.
lot of money, they may not be able to pay for the high internet speeds.
Right.
I agree with that. I know that's an issue. I also know that, you know, the public transportation that we have in town isn't very conducive to working
Yeah.
families anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that most families, even if you do live downtown, if you don't work downtown, you have to take a car. So I think that limiting affordable housing to specifically the downtown is, you know, a lot of people would be in the same situation outside of town as well. Because the bus, you know, is not, like I said, conducive to working families.
It'd be interesting to know how many people leave Bridgeton to go to work.
It would be interesting, yeah.
Because that would affect what we're trying to do here radically.
I know that we do have some loose data that is not, it was shared with us without names and all of that, but on some of the apartment buildings that we have, a lot of people live here in Bridgeton but work in Portland.
Yeah, we've become a bedroom community for Portland.
Yeah.
So would it be good to say we're going to allow affordable housing in all districts? We do right now anyway. But we are going to encourage it in the growth areas and the areas closer to town.
Well, that sounds.
So, I mean, the mixed-use district going up 117 still has some open space.
That's what I was
That's
thinking
nice,
about.
that's
Yeah.
nice and
Yeah.
close.
Yeah,
That's
that
what I
would be
was
good.
thinking.
Where I looked at the inner corridor and what's available there, which is also kind of walking distance, half mile or so. And there's not many empty lots in the inner
Yeah,
corridor, and the
that's
empty
the problem.
ones either belong to MEH or one of those conglomerates, and they're building that all out, you
Yes.
already know that. Or they're primarily commercial, or the empty lots are small. So there's not a lot of, or they've got built, and the rest have buildings on them. So the mixed-use district on 117 is a really good place. It's not a growth area though, but
There's some condos on 117.
at the same time, I think the mixed-use area from Freiburg to, from Freiburg to Venezia is totally different than the mixed use on 117. And I think if we have time, we ought to change that.
We need to be careful in the way we create this for the
Right.
affordable housing part, because we gotta remember it's gotta go through the town to get approval.
Right.
And when I look at the three things that L 2003 brings forward, this is the one that will be more difficult for people to understand or vote for.
Right.
Okay.
And so we've got to do a really good job at what we create here will be accepted by the community.
Right. And I think, so, one way to,
I mean, the reason I'm
Yeah,
saying it
I
is that
agree.
because depending on where you live or who you are, you've got different presumptions, what
Yeah.
should be here.
You might, yeah, and you might, right, and I think there's ways to do that, I mean, we don't even call out affordable housing in our ordinance right now, but it's allowed anywhere, because multifamily dwellings
Understood.
are allowed.
Understood.
Dee?
I don't want this to sound self-serving, but if we're going to keep affordable housing out of any district, it should be the lakeside neighborhood. Because no one, if anybody really wanted to do that, I think that they would stress the land too much. And we have to be very careful because water flows downhill, and the lake is usually downhill. And I would perhaps suggest that we talk about that seriously. I mean, a lot of the places have covenants, but not all. And there's a lot of family land out there where people are now having to subdivide because they don't have the taxes to cover the land that they've inherited. I've talked to a lot of people who have had that problem for over 20 years. And so, and it seems really sort of antithetical to talk about affordable housing in the lakeside neighborhood where land is the most expensive, the most highly taxed, and the most problematic for protecting the environment.
Yeah, so I don't know that we can exclude it from a district.
Well, why did you ask that question? Apparently you could.
So one of the outcomes of this is gonna be a question list, and the other's gonna be a high-level agreement list.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're gonna have to start getting down to tax and nails. And then we all had homework assignments, I haven't gotten to that yet, but.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
Dee didn't have one, but, because she wasn't
I don't
here.
remember what mine was.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
I think the one thing we have to be mindful of is in Lakeside District, what you can't do is say an affordable housing development has to have different setbacks than,
You can't create,
you can't create
No.
a discriminatory, you can't make it so that essentially it's gonna
they
be
can't do it.
too much
Yeah.
harder to build, yeah.
But
I would
our
just advise-
setbacks are sufficient for protecting the lake and protecting
But remember,
area.
somebody can come to us, let's take Lakeside Pines, 60-acre campground or whatever it is, right? I think it has a ton of lakefront.
Got it.
And that's going to be developed, all right? I have no idea what it's gonna be, but it'll be developed.
Sure.
So, if somebody wanted to put a large condo development there, or a set of apartments there, I don't know, other than some things, other than parking. Well, what I'm trying to say is, if it meets the standards, it meets the standards, and it can have as much impact as an affordable housing development, because people are people.
Right.
If you have enough land to put 100 units on it, and you put 100 units on it, and you meet all the other standards, which hopefully the standards are written to avoid bad impacts, which I think they are, then whether it's unless there's something really different about an affordable housing structure, 100 people in a unit is 100 people. It's the same impact.
Yeah, but.
So unless you're gonna outlaw condos in the lakeside neighborhood and other structures in the lakeside neighborhood, then you probably can't eliminate affordable housing.
I'm
that's
not
just my
saying
thoughts.
what I think I'm trying to get at is where that many appealed housing development is now. Years ago, someone wanted to turn it into an RV park. And it obviously was not built. Certain kinds of dwellings put greater stress on property. And I don't want to single out any kind of of dwelling, but what I'm saying, a condo could have rules and receptacles for garbage and all kinds of things that you would not have with individual homes. Like Levittown on the lake, would be very nice, but the goings and comings of all of those people and the stresses on the neighborhood, I think, could be deleterious to the lakes, and we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot. So,
I mean,
it would be just as inappropriate, I think, to have an RV park without giving them any electricity so that you'd have generators running all the time.
yeah, so I think we just have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
I think if you're worried about Lakeside District, then we should think about structures, setbacks, lot size per dwelling unit and all of that, bottom line. At the end of the day, I think
Remember, that
large
land is
properties
very
on the lake are
expensive.
gonna be probably expensive family homes or very nice condo developments with golf courses and stuff.
Well, that's where the money is.
Yeah,
But at
okay.
the same time, I think it behooves us to try to encourage year-round living in some of these, because it is a problem when your tax base half of your tax base can't vote for your town things, and also when they're not here to contribute to the town. So
Okay.
there's another problem.
All right, create a separate section in the code for affordable housing if possible, so I think that's just a statement. Implement a maximum impervious coverage spec for each district. I think that's fully allowable, and if we don't want an entire lot to be covered in pavement or with structures, then we should define that. It's 15% in one district and 30% in another. For instance, in the rural neighborhood, maybe you really want an impervious spec, and I don't think we have one.
I think that might be where the floor area ratio thing might
Okay.
might be helpful.
Okay, so, do we agree with looking at that?
Yes.
Yes.
The floor
And
area
that's really to
ratio.
protect the aquifers, so.
And phosphorus.
Yep.
All that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
New Jersey's built up so much
There's
that
something to be
their
said for a lot of
aquifers aren't
individual homes
recharging.
creating more of
Well,
a problem than one big
It all
complex.
runs directly off.
A lot of
Interesting to
people will
find
be
out.
just under the
Oh.
threshold for impervious, because they don't want to go to DEP.
Okay, back to, so we're on to new considerations.
No,
we
you
didn't
missed
do
the
H.
parking.
Age.
Oh, the parking,
Parking.
implement parking requirements in an appropriate section of the code.
We don't have any real.
We don't
parking
really have a real
requirements.
we have a parking standard that's basically up to the judgment of this board and the
Well,
applicant convincing
I
us.
think as we're doing this, we should fix that. But the other thing, it says within all the write-ups in L 2000, you can only require 2 spaces.
For the
For 3 dwelling units.
affordable housing, and I forget what
No,
it
no,
says for the
It
ADU.
says for dwelling
Yeah,
units too, I
yeah,
thought.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It was, so
Right.
honestly, I think parking also becomes very important here. Because if we're gonna require 2 spaces, we gotta think about what's gonna happen with parking in town. If
Yeah.
we're encouraging people to put accessory dwelling units in there,
Yeah, so
They're gonna have to park on the street.
they're gonna have to park on the street.
yeah, the
And
two,
there's a winter ban.
right, the 2 spaces, on affordable housing require no more than 2 off-street parking motor vehicle spaces for every 3
For
dwelling
3
units.
dwellings.
So that's only if they're getting the density bonus. That's not for every
But
single
didn't it say
affordable
also For
housing.
accessory dwelling units, it was only,
For
2.
accessory dwelling units, so
for
You
that,
lots, only 2.
No, it said you couldn't add any required parking for ADUs.
I think parking's in, with this will bring parking to a head.
Because in my scheme, I did add that, my suggestions, that there would be required off-street parking, but these rules say no.
Yeah, so for an accessory dwelling unit, the answer is no. No. For the affordable housing, the answer is, if it qualifies for the density bonus, which again, it could only be in growth areas and if they do other things. And for the dwelling unit allowance, the one where it can be 2, 3, or 4, you can have parking. And if, obviously, if it's a subdivision, we don't have a strict parking schedule, but that's where to capture it as well as in the district standards, or even in the dimensional standards.
Okay.
So I would like to give somebody an assignment. I'm looking at Rolf. There are published parking schedules by, and maybe Tori can point us in the right direction. I remember it by the international, the same people that do the,
We're talking about what size space should be, or what?
I think it
what
includes
number
the size
required?
of the spaces
10
and
by
how
20?
many per. you
10 by
say-
20?
So you know we have an EDU chart that says, for wastewater, that says if you're, a single-family dwelling, it's this many EDUs per bedroom. If you're a restaurant, it's this many. There's a schedule, I saw it somewhere, I don't know, it might have been in Wyndham or something, but it came directly from a published international best practices, whatever. So that we would have a parking schedule that, for instance, says you need to have one parking space for every blah, blah, blah. For a restaurant, you need this many, depending on the seats. For a retail shop, you need this many, I don't know, depending on the
I know where I can
size.
go get another community's exact standards.
So, and there is if I could give you homework, there is some, and Brenda might know it, there's some international body, if you can figure out what it is and just send it to Rolf, if you have time, for parking, unless you want to do that. There's some international body that,
We had, when I used to live in Massachusetts, we had parking standards for every use
yep,
in the community.
okay, well, there you go.
So, and that's why I keep talking about
Can
this,
start
because I
there.
look at this and I go,
I think we do, the town is growing so much that even without this, we need to address it, because although we have quite a bit of parking in town, the standard is very judgmental.
it's like,
It's kind of loosey-goosey.
it's,
I mean, it has to be obvious that,
I mean, in an
20
example,
spaces isn't going to be adequate for 200 dwelling units,
I'm just saying, an example is break room.
Yeah,
We're doubling the size of that, but there's no new parking being created. And the question really is, in the same way with Justin's restaurant, is there parking, adequate parking, to satisfy those businesses? And we got a responsibility to make sure that there is, because if we don't, that's a way a business can fail, because they don't have parking to get their
Right.
customers there.
yeah, in Justin's case, they bought the Walmart lot and
Right, well,
created about,
he took a
Yeah.
very good approach.
right.
Says, I'm not gonna worry about it, I'm gonna take care of this.
Yeah, and he's smart enough that way.
And
Well, he has
also,
the
something like
ability
that
to do
helps
that.
us, because somebody might go to the restaurant and then walk up the street
Mhm.
and still park there. So
Yeah.
that creates
Yeah,
additional parking in the community.
Yep. All right. So you got
done
that
talking.
one.
Yeah.
But I don't promise.
Well, this isn't, something that's gonna, if we can have some pieces of this done by November, I think it will be exceptionally helpful to the community and also make everybody's life easier. All right, new considerations. A, implement a requirement to assure water quality supply is available if it draws on public water and is part of the LD 2003 housing allowance. So I think what I was saying there is even when you're just building, they're supposed to be able to prove that there's enough water supply, but we should make sure that's very firm, including for the dwelling unit, unless they're
Does
drilling
that mean
wells,
we send a letter to
obviously.
the water district and say,
Yeah,
That's the requirement that they're part of the impact
Yeah, we have
statement,
that
they
in
can do
the,
that?
we have
Yeah.
that in the site plan, but it's just not as specific as
Yes,
it could be.
We don't
Yeah.
have it firm enough, because what we haven't gotten from the water district is, what is your firm capacity? Which normally, from an engineering perspective, we don't want every well they've got running 24/7.
At capacity.
In order to try to catch up and fulfill what the town needs, say, in July, because that doesn't leave you anything if a fire breaks out.
Is,
You want to make sure that you have some reserve, and usually it's at about, 90% of what all the wells together can put out, or with your largest well out of service for whatever reason, pump failure or whatever. So
Yeah.
those kinds of reserves, and I know that, I was checking their records for, I think, 2022. July was the biggest month, and the peak day was 600,000 gallons on that peak day.
And what's the capacity of the wells?
About 800,000
So we're at
gallons
75%.
on peak days. Thank God you only get like a few peak days. Usually they're down much lower, they're around 200,000 gallons a
Yeah.
day.
In your research, do they have a 90% cutoff?
They do not
They
at this
do not.
point.
They don't have
They
it?
don't have, and I'm going to be talking to one of the trustees tomorrow, who also happens to be my plumber.
Yeah, 'cause
To
it-
be having this discussion.
it seems like if they go up to that 75 or 80% level X number of times a year, or then it's time to drill new wells,
Right.
and expand the aquifer capabilities. Or if you know you're going to, I think that's the whole purpose of knowing the build-out, is if you know that you're
5 or
going to
6, I think.
end up
But they're all
doing
in the
that.
same place.
The-
That's our problem. Sorry.
No, so is it, my impression, Kathy, is that the water district says they have enough water, but they're very nervous about some of these larger developments.
Yes, and they should be.
So, do we need, unless you think you can get it, do we as a board need to just ask them about capacity and when they need to drill more wells? Because
I think we should.
3 years ago, Todd Perot was talking about needing to drill more wells. And we had just approved expanding the aquifer. And that has a big
Aquifer
impact,
protection,
because
right.
it's gonna cut out certain uses.
Right.
Okay, so I'll do that. I will send a letter
Reach
as a
out.
board,
Yep.
and I'll make sure you're on it.
Thanks.
Could you possibly find out whether we have any limits to the aquifer here? Whether there's an upper limit to what we can draw?
I'll be able to have that answer for you next week. I'm pulling aquifer maps for everything around here.
Yeah,
So we will have a Bridgton aquifer
Yeah,
map.
'cause-
Right now, we in Bridgton are very limited. We don't have, like Denmark, you go to Denmark, and that's one of the reasons that Poland Springs in Denmark, they're pulling 430,000 gallons a day out
A
of Denmark.
day?
A day. That's why the summer you see 108 Poland Spring trucks go by here.
That isn't
They're
the well on
150.
302, is it?
That's one of the wells on
That's one of
302.
them.
That's the Freiburg.
That's the
well.
Freiburg
But yeah,
well.
but the Denmark didn't want the trucks going through Denmark, so they made them pop a pipeline all the way up to where the Freiburg wells are, so they can withdraw from there.
so they can come through us.
They come through us,
Hey,
yes.
that's
Yeah.
nice of them.
It's a public road, Main State Road. We
Okay.
couldn't stop them.
So I'll do my part, you do your part next. And you know, what I'd encourage is just, whatever homework you have, just give it to Tori, we'll put it in the OneDrive, so we
Yep.
can review it prior to the next meeting, and we can start to understand it and make some decisions.
I'd like to say that Kathy's knowledge is a real asset.
Yes, it
And
is.
for all of the time that I've been on the board, I've never had the right questions asked by someone who is knowledgeable. And I'm just thrilled that you're bringing that to the board.
Thank you very much, Dee.
Yes.
I'm glad,
We all
Yeah.
are.
Here,
glad to
here.
bring it.
Here, that's right.
I'm in love with Kathy.
Okay, let's not get too
I'm
personal.
not, but I do like her.
All right,
She has a good personality.
moving right along.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. So are we gonna implement a requirement? That's the question.
Yes,
Answer's yes?
I
Yes.
think,
Yes,
yes,
Okay,
Yeah, I think.
just trying to understand what we're gonna do here.
yeah,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was wondering if
Okay.
we could run on
and
a.
then, we already talked about B. There seemed to be the general feeling that we would restrict short-term rentals from being allowed as part of the additional dwelling unit allowance, and maybe the accessory dwelling unit allowance in part or in whole. So I think that's
Thank
something
you.
we're gonna have to work on, but that's
Yes.
just going forward.
That's giving
not
me 6 months more of life.
Retroactive.
That's a good thing.
We're not gonna address the 400 we already have. I'm gonna, this part that says address definitions from 2000, LD 2003. I've told you what's in the code and what's not. What I would just say is if people wanna add to this list, send it in. Does that mean you wanna add something, Kevin?
he's just,
Ken?
yeah, can we make a definition more restrictive than what the, is in the LD 2003 definitional list? For instance, what is a dwelling unit? Yeah, can we add to it? Because it sounds as if their definition is very general.
Up to a certain point.
For instance, I was thinking, can we add qualifications such as a dwelling unit must have a kitchen, a separate bedroom?
We already have that. That's already
Sure.
the law. I think we already have some, I think that's already the law. I can ask
It
Brenda.
says it has,
It has to be fit for human habitation.
Well, let's
Oh,
look
you-
at our definition.
Yeah, we have a good definition of dwelling unit, I think.
The dwelling unit,
Cooking, sleeping, toilet, yes.
yeah.
which
So,
is
and
good.
I believe that this definition would be acceptable to DECD.
Can we restrict the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units? For instance, you could have an accessory dwelling unit that simply has a bathroom and a bedroom, a studio,
it has to have kitchen facilities,
with no kitchen.
or would have to have kitchen facilities.
I
Yeah,
think,
but we
I
don't
think
have
it,
it in our
I think it
definition.
has to have, hold on, let's see what their definition is.
We don't have it in ours.
We don't
have
even
something-
have accessory dwelling unit in
Yeah,
ours,
yeah, because-
period.
Yeah, period, so, again,
Okay,
that's
so-
something.
But
accessory
dwelling unit, we
dwell-
have kitchen facilities.
Yes.
I think, yes, we can. I think already the state, and I want to get to Tori's map she turned in to us, which was her homework.
We have only in-law apartments either.
It says accessory dwelling units means a self-contained dwelling unit located within, attached, or detached from a single-family dwelling unit on the same parcel of land. So the words self-contained dwelling unit means a dwelling unit that has all that stuff, and I'm sure we can spell it out. So the answer is, to your question is yes.
Okay.
I'd be very surprised if it was no.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, in that case, what you really just have is a group home. Then it falls into the group home category, which is, bedrooms with maybe a central kitchen.
Or a boarding house.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Something like that.
Okay, so what I'd suggest on this is, could everybody just, before the next meeting, if you have a suggested definition for ones that don't have definitions, please suggest them. And if you think there's something that we shouldn't have a definition for on this list, or should be added to this list, let's please do that.
Why don't we add parking spot while we're at it?
Huh, I like it.
Parking.
So we don't have that?
We don't have parking, we have.
Yeah.
You don't have
we have
what?
it-
Okay. All right.
Why am I feeling optimistic?
Honestly, I felt hopeful after listening to DECD. It sounds like we have some reasonable options. But we still have a lot of analysis to do.
But we also have shoreland zoning which, when we didn't have zoning,
Right.
kept us in pretty good shape anyway.
And then I have a D section here, other definitions to add. I think on short-term rentals, what we talked about, D, is to try and define that in a way that didn't require, we're looking forward here. So what we're trying to say is, we're not trying to say short-term rentals got to pay money or anything like this yet. What we're trying to say is, if you're taking advantage of the affordable housing, if you're taking advantage of the dwelling unit allowance, and if you're taking advantage of the ADU allowance, it can't be used for short-term rentals. Or maybe you might say for affordable housing and the extra dwelling units, can't be used for, short-term rentals. ADUs can be used for short-term rentals.
Oh, please, no.
No, we gotta be careful here, because there's people in homes with high taxes that
That's why
might,
they have an ADU, but they could rent, they,
You gotta remember. it's
I
gotta pass the
think
public.
when you're talking about having a home, it has to be for a longer period, 6 months perhaps. But I have some definitions that I
So
will
what-
give to Tori.
yeah. So
and-
what
Because
I'd
Ken and I
ask,
worked on
yeah,
this.
okay, let me finish. What I'd ask is that in your definitions, it should be something, this is what the board agreed on last time, it should be something that our CEO doesn't end up having to heavily regulate. It should be something like, for instance, somebody's gonna sign a piece of paper when they get that allowance that says, whether it's a subdivision or something else, when they get that
They won't do it.
allowance, that it won't be for short-term rentals. And we define what that is. And right now, the easiest definition we have is renting it out for less than 30 days.
Do we have a lodging tax in Bridgton?
I think there's this, isn't there a state?
The
I
state
don't care about the
has,
state.
Yeah.
we
No, we
don't
don't.
have any definitions, we don't have any lodging tax, we have nothing. What we do, what the state has is a sales tax on rentals. And what they're saying now in thinking about short-term rentals, there is discussion about returning to the municipality a portion of those state sales taxes if they're collecting. In other words, you can get a return, but we don't collect anything. We have nothing on the books.
Is there a
And
restaurant?
I think we need
There's
a
a restaurant.
policy discussion with
But that
the
is the
select
state.
board, because the same way we had these issues with the food trucks, because it's a new kind of industry, it's a deconstructed
So
restaurant
Dee,
industry.
I understand, but
Well,
right
we
now,
have to address
for
these
like the
things.
5th time,
I-
this
I-
board has said we're not ready to do that.
Well,
Now,
I'm
if
trying to
this
get
board-
you ready
wait,
for
Could you let
it.
me finish? Because this is like the 5th or 6th time.
I know.
What we're saying is, we want to restrict short-term rentals in this LD 2003 implementation. So the definition has to be such that Brenda Day, or our CEO, or whomever, isn't spending a lot of time regulating, and neither are we. It would be possibly something like, this is a short-term rental, you can't do it, you need to have the notary public, whatever, you need to sign a
Right.
piece of paper with blood that you're not gonna do it.
Couldn't
Yeah,
that
but you
be
need-
part
you
of
need
the
something
building
else for
permit?
Brenda, by the
Yeah.
way. She needs the ability to levy fines. if-
Well, we can build that right into the ordinance.
Absolutely.
But she doesn't have that authority except through the Board of Selectmen.
But she would go to the select board and say these people are in
Yes.
violation, which is
I
what
know
she
that,
does
too.
now.
I'm just saying, but there's no sense in making somebody sign something unless it's got some teeth
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Does anyone on the board know of any court challenges to short-term rental
Yeah, and they've all
restrictions?
failed.
And they've all failed.
Yeah, pretty much. And Portland had two different ones up to vote, one a citizen's petition and one something else, and I think those both failed. Not positive about that. D, last thing on short-term rentals,
Isn't it-
last thing.
Well,
Please.
isn't it part, couldn't it be part of the building permit? Because each building permit also carries with it inspections, you know, plumbing
We can,
inspections.
if they're using the affordable house, I, just, yeah, put some thought to it.
Something in
But
there.
if it has to do with LD 2003, and we can do that in a building permit, great. But not just general, unless we want to say we just want to know where they are and what they're doing. But people change their minds about these things. I mean, and they
really
don't
hard to
necessarily
enforce.
have to have a permit.
It's hard to enforce.
So if this,
If it's a business,
if
they
this
should.
board changes its mind and thinks that we need to regulate STRs, I will go to select board and pitch it, but better have good justification for it, how it's gonna help the town and how it's not gonna, you know, create an issue. Because I don't think, I'm not sure that the voting members of this town would agree to it. And I think it might take more resources, and we've already talked about all this, so I want to move on.
Well, I've thought, Ken and I have been working on this, and we have an
Yeah.
angle.
So, that's fine, this board hasn't agreed to any angle yet other than what we
No,
just
but
discussed.
I got one ready for you.
Well,
That's good.
it's for the board, okay? All right, so I think the rest is copacetic. The new rules will tell us whether they address legal's questions. So there's two things we didn't do. One is, I want to allow Tori some time to go over the material she sent us and how it could be used. Because I think we asked her for this. And maybe you want to speak to the wastewater stuff too, if there's still questions on that. The second one is, we all had some homework. And I know Kathy probably did hers, I did some of mine. I think we can try, and that was the homework about determining lot area per dwelling unit in various districts, okay? So nobody's gonna get a bad mark if you didn't do your homework. But if you did do your homework, it would be great to have a
get a
brief
star.
summary, and if you want to do a written summary later, that would be terrific.
Could
So,
you tell us our homework again?
Ken, you had to decide lot area per dwelling unit for rural neighborhood. There was a general agreement on the board, it would be 40,000 square feet for a 40,000, and it would be, the lot size would be 40,000 square feet. So your task is to go and see, what does that all mean? Kathy had downtown village neighborhood.
Yep.
Ralph had outer village. I had lakeside neighborhood and inner quarter. Dan had mixed-use district. And Tori had DVB 1 and 2. Okay?
And we were supposed to come up with what?
So
I couldn't resist.
clearly I need to publish assignments after these meetings.
It's supposed to be on the syllabus.
Yeah, so what we talked about was defining lot area, not the definition itself, but deciding what the lot area per dwelling unit would be for each of the districts. Tori made the point that, so we said in some cases, maybe we want to use exactly what's there for the lot size. So if the lot size is 20,000 square feet, we also want it, for the full lot size, we also want to say 20,000 square feet lot area per dwelling unit. But in other districts, we might not want to do that. We might want to say if the limit is 40,000 square feet, we might want to say 20,000 square feet per dwelling area. And that really depends on the lots and all that. I am going to try and get Brenda to give, if we can get a list by district of lot sizes
Yeah.
and whether they are, got a structure on them, that would be helpful. Okay? Were you about to say something, Kathy?
Yeah, I've got a spreadsheet all set up, and I've got map, lot, acres. I'm gonna convert that to square feet. I'm also adding in, because I'm in downtown Village neighborhood, public water, public sewer. See if
Wow.
those are available on those particular lots. So I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I'll have it done probably in a week, so I can send it out as a template and just we can
Excellent.
start slogging.
That's outstanding.
Oh, well, that's
What were
great.
my districts, please?
Your district was the outer village. The boonies of town. That's your district.
Oh, I thought
Dee
I
didn't
had
have
the
a
boonies.
district, but she has other homework. In your rural neighborhood,
Yeah.
you fought so vehemently for it at the last meeting that you got that
I
assignment.
understand the
Oh,
obsession.
Okay?
I have a few of my own.
I'm glad that I won.
All right. So, thank you, Kathy. That is fantastic what
Yes,
you've done
great.
already. Tori,
Yes, okay.
floor is yours. So we have a bunch of maps you gave us.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm psyched about the
to be
maps.
honest, I'm forgetting exactly why you asked for them, but I knew that you did ask for them.
Any of these?
So I did my homework.
It's amazing when you
Which
ask for something a couple, a month ago, how you forget it.
I
So-
can't remember particularly why you wanted them.
I think you actually mentioned, see, this is what happens when you mention things.
Oh, boy, maybe I forgot.
That's the,
We're all getting punchy now. I think
Yes,
you
those are the
actually
ones.
mentioned that
See, you can do this.
when we're looking
do
at, yeah, see, and Kevin's just about, his
What?
back is gonna die on him.
She's not doing well.
When we were talking about lot area per dwelling unit, I think what you were mentioning is it might be, and we were talking about buildable area, when net buildable area. I think, when we take net buildable area, which we agreed on a definition, no wetlands, blah, 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 and then you look at, what might be excluded and why, you suggested looking at those maps.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think just walk us through the maps, and people that
Yeah.
have their individual districts to look at, you might want to take those into consideration.
Yeah, I think just in general, it's good to be aware of these maps.
And these are on the OneDrive.
Yes, so these are they're called Beginning with Habitat, and that's an
Oh,
inland
yes.
fisheries and wildlife
yeah, do you want to,
program.
wanna
So every town
go back
has
in?
these. So this is undeveloped habitat blocks and connectors and
Oops, I'm
conserved
sorry.
land.
Sorry.
So this maps out what we have, significant habitat connectors and corridors, things like that. So, I mean,
Are those wildlife places to walk? I mean, where the wildlife goes, or?
That's where they walk, where they
Yeah.
go, yep.
Yes, right
Yeah.
through my yard,
yeah,
right for my dandy.
They-
Right in front of my truck.
yeah, they got my peach tree right there.
Yes, they've been nibbling on the pears, the daylilies, the hostas.
Well, remember, they were here
undeveloped block
first.
connectors. So this is a connector between,
Mm-hmm.
larger blocks of undeveloped land. So this is showing us how many acres are undeveloped here, here, here. I mean, this is a big one, obviously, in North Bridgton.
Yeah, so this is where, here, for instance, here's the area of
That's
where the
West
pit went, the
Yes.
sand pit went,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay? And these are all buffers, these grayish areas, I think is what it
Wildlife
said
area.
somewhere. No, maybe not, maybe
No.
that was on a different map.
Yeah, this is all like in between the back end of the hospital, way over here. This is a pretty swampy area, because all of us on High Street have wet basements come spring.
Oh,
Some people on the street have
Yes.
some pumps.
So if you look at Highland Lake, some of these lots here, you see these little lines, I think those might be.
That's Ingalls Grove.
Road, are those roads, squiggly little things, roads?
where,
Oh, yeah,
which,
Ingalls
which-
Grove is right in.
Right in there,
But if
yeah.
you look at, because I did start to look at this part of the lakeside neighborhood. Some of these lots start up here at Highland Road and go all the way.
yes.
And some of them are very large. For instance,
That pile.
Chalmers or Cossey ever decides they're going to Portland.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was the subdivision that,
Davis Lane, these are even bigger than
Davis
Davis.
Lane.
oh, I know they are. I know they are.
So those are areas to, I would, you certainly would love to see the development up on the high points and not down here, but,
Not there, that's the golf course.
So,
But yeah, so this is just something that is nice to have as you're looking at your districts.
These are great at
It's
this
pretty,
size,
too.
though. Well,
Yeah.
because I tried to
Yeah.
look them on the
can't
computer.
I
really
kept
I
doing
know.
this.
And
Yeah.
as soon as
You
I
can't.
expand them, you can't
So
see
those are
anything.
Oh,
from,
yeah.
that I put on there, but you
Yeah.
can go onto Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and you can pull up all of these maps for Bridgton, and you can zoom.
yeah, so when I zoom, I get the definition. It doesn't lose it on me.
You're using your Mac to do it?
I'm using either my iPad or my Mac,
Oh,
either one.
well, my computer is so old that I'm leaving it to
So there's
to
several
the
of these.
Historical
So
Society.
high value plant and animal habitats, so I don't know what the key is saying down here. Okay, waterfowl, there's,
Just where they talk about the brook trout?
Wildlife wetlands.
Yeah, there's brook trout on one of these, right here.
Yeah, Atlantic salmon, well, there won't be any, well, who
That's
knows?
Crooked River.
Roseate tern nesting
Yeah,
area.
yeah, there's one of the big areas for development, right through there. That's all
Well, not,
private.
not,
One person,
well, yeah,
private
some in
land.
here, some of it.
There's very shallow water right there, too.
Yeah, there used to be beachfront
It ain't
on
that
this
shallow.
property. You know, this used to
My-
be a camp.
Yeah, my swimming hole is right there.
Oh,
And it's shallow right here.
yeah.
And
Is it
there's a
shallow when
cove-
you go up too also?
No, not really. There's a cove right here that's shallow that people fish in. This area between here, just offshore, there's a lot of rocks. But at the end of the day, this is all very nice waterfront in here.
Yeah, and
It's, for Highland Lake, it's over 10 feet deep, which is deep.
yeah, which is pretty good.
Even
It's-
6 to 8 feet deep in
Yeah,
some places.
It's
Well,
all,
yeah,
it's all owned by the property down Millbrook Road. That's, he owns
Yeah.
both sides of Millbrook Road.
Yeah, and
down
this,
there.
this here is, now this is very shallow.
Yeah,
And there's a
that's weedy
development
and
here,
shallow,
and it's
yeah.
very, very weedy. This area up here has been put into a trust, and Moon Echo Land Trust now owns it.
Yeah, that's kind of marshy there.
It's good
so I
for
can
me,
see
because
why.
I live right there.
It's very
so
marshy.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
always be looking
Yeah, I
at
took
that.
my boat up here a couple of times and propeller.
Yeah,
like spaghetti.
you need a mowing.
So, but these rare
certificate.
animals, some of these places might be important.
Yeah,
Right, because this is tough, because our inner corridor really impinges way in there.
yeah.
yes.
So I think that as we're looking at our zones, this is a good thing to have to overlay
Mm.
on that.
Yeah.
And I do think that our GIS system does have this data.
I think it does. It
Yes.
has portions of it.
Yes, so, all right, so what do we have? Water resources and riparian habitats, so, I mean, riparian habitats,
Shellfish.
pretty obvious, it's
Yeah,
all
wild
around
brook.
water.
Here's your
Well,
wild
what are
brook
these
trout.
areas? What are these
this
areas?
is the wild brook trout.
The wild brook trout, riparian
Yeah.
habitat is pink,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
wild brook
These
trout
are
is
wetlands.
the orange. That distinctive orange with the dots in the middle.
I didn't
These
see
are all
It might be
anywhere.
all of
in
these here,
Streams
all these streams.
And a lot of this protects the town because we are covered all over town with shoreline zoning.
Mhm.
I mean, there's not much that shoreline zoning is not going to cover.
All this is here.
Yeah, but, the
No, I mean, they're
marshes
really,
and,
Water
restricted
everywhere.
yeah.
with what can be done. So I think, incentivizing the density where it already exists is
Right.
like the best thing that we can do.
Those are roads, I believe, Kim, with little houses and stuff in it also.
Oh, well, that's the
Or not.
road down to the front here.
Yeah, I think these are like houses.
Yeah, but then there's water back here, that's interesting, I've never seen that.
It could be, it just could be swamp,
Could be
marshy,
seasonal.
marshy.
Yeah, there is a swamp run, but it's very dry starting in June.
Well,
My
nobody can.
boat hit a rock, right?
Well, put a
It's not
star
marked.
there.
Oh, I know how to avoid it now.
Yeah, you know where it is.
It also hit a rock where Ken's cottage is coming around this right
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
right
there's a
there.
rock
It's
right there,
unmarked.
and
It's
then there's
huge.
rock there. And that one, when I had my boat, I had to swing out this way.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very rocky in there.
Yeah, and this whole area here.
Yeah.
But I
These
agree
are
with
public
Tori,
waters
we wanna
supply
try
wells.
to,
No,
So-
you have to do it there.
one of the things I'm looking at in terms of shoreland zone is just what are the empty lot sizes in the
In the shore.
GD one and GD two, because
Yes.
those are growth areas. And
What is that?
But they're very small,
That
they're
is
small
Salmon
areas.
It's an aquifer actually, but
Small
Salmon
aquifer.
Point might be out
Yeah,
here,
that,
Well, where's the town aquifer?
Salmon aquifer is over
Silver-
here somewhere. How come it's not?
You got a well
shown?
map,
Off 107.
one of these maps is a well map.
It's 107.
117 is down here. Shoots up, that's 107 right there. We should be
It's
showing
not
up
showing
right
it.
about there.
What's that color?
Can you
That
give
is
it?
aquifer.
Should be right in there.
That must be it,
But I
it
think
says
it's-
aquifer.
Oh, right here, these
That
are public wells. This is the map that has it on
Yeah.
it. So it should show where the public wells are.
Here.
There's another, I think, isn't there more, or there's gonna be more on Mount Henry, up on Mount Henry, which is, where's Mount Henry? Here's
No.
302, right? There's,
There.
is that Mount, I think that's Mount Henry. Yeah, well,
Yep.
there's that right
That's
there.
the salmon.
But I think there might be
Bear
two more.
aquifer, Bear River aquifer, there's a pretty good, public water supply for Harrison, which also feeds North Bridgeton.
North
here.
Bridgeton.
Mhm.
What is this?
This is, it's a Sawyer Brook here.
Yeah, but what is this?
That's
one?
Knight's
It's
Hill.
awesome. That must be one of those big developments.
That's Knight's Hill.
Yeah, you're right, it's Knight's Hill.
Mhm.
So that's their well area.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of little ones in here.
So
Because of the
does
condos that are
that
up
indicates an
there.
aquifer that they're all drawing on?
Yes,
That's it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Saco River
these.
aquifer.
they're
runs
all
down
a little
through here.
community aquifers.
Mhm.
There's more, here they are, here,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And the town wells are where?
Off 107, right down here. They should show up bigger than they are. 'cause
Yeah,
the
that's not,
capacity
oh,
is-
there you go.
They
I know,
want
that's
capacity.
Naples.
Yeah, they won't want it. Should be off, I know it's down
Where's
107.
107? This is,
You go down 117, okay, yeah, down South High Street, down
It's not marked on here.
117. That's not marked on here. But this should be 107 here, because it goes down towards,
Yes, that's
And
got to
up
be
and-
107.
but it should be.
Yeah, 'cause
showing
there's
up right
Hope
about
Pond.
there.
Yeah.
is that right?
It
Yeah.
should be showing, Adam, yeah.
Where's Wood Pond?
Wood Pond.
Woods Pond
Woods
is way
Pond
over
is
there.
way
there.
over here.
Yeah.
And
So 117 cuts off, this
That's-
might be
that's-
wrong,
Yeah,
actually.
that is wrong.
That's wrong, this is
107.
107.
Yeah,
And it should be showing up,
Yeah, it should be right in here.
right,
Hmm.
and they're
You
big
got-
wells.
Well, maybe it's these three little things,
Right.
but.
Yeah, there are three
They should be much bigger
indications.
than
But
that.
remember, the aquifer area actually that's restricted is this entire area, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
From the Sanborn, remember the Sanborn?
Right, the Sanborn gravel
Yes,
pit.
pit.
yes.
Remember, they wanted to access in here, but that actually overlaps into this area. Parts of it are all around here.
Yes,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah. It's all in the Willett Brook.
Interesting.
yes.
Right,
'Cause-
so you mess up here, then things,
Things
Not
go
good.
down there, yeah.
yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look on the GIS data to see what that says, because that should be,
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah,
all
because
the
I
maps.
remember the Bragg area is close to the aquifer, but not,
What do we
it's not,
have here?
or if it's in it, it's in an area that's not restricted.
alright, so natural resource co-currents. And I looked up
Yeah, that's listed.
So, let's see.
Conservation, rare
Oh,
plants,
so
these
it-
are plants.
It's an overlay of everything, and
What
it
does-
has values.
What is an attribute value?
That's the sum of all these other things.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
these are high-value areas for,
Yes.
okay.
This is.
So actually, this is kind
Yeah.
of the area you were describing.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah, right on the Willett.
And here.
Yep.
Yeah,
So this is a combination of all of these things that we
Yeah.
just looked at.
Oh, yeah, so it's all the
Yeah.
other maps.
So there's
Interesting.
very high value areas that honestly, we really should be looking at.
Yeah, we should.
They
really
don't
do
list Highland Lake as high value.
Only this portion up in here.
What I'm saying, look at the different color for the other
Yeah,
lakes.
no, I saw, yeah, I noticed the exact same thing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Well, a lot of the lakes, this must be a lot of wetlands and stuff. A lot of the lakes, only one section, you know?
Right.
Only a small section.
Well,
Well, all of Long Lake is.
Well, no, not the dark
No, I'm talking
color.
about the color of the lake.
Oh, the color of the lake.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So that
because
gets
that's odd.
that's a 1 to a 2.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
It,
And none, you have none on the Highland Lake.
yeah, Highland Lake.
We
is-
don't have any trout.
I
You
guess
have some
not.
bass.
Well,
We got bass, but,
Yeah, we have
I think
Fishermen
Highland's in the worst condition of all of them.
yeah.
Highland Lake.
Yeah, that's why.
Well, it used to be, I mean, without the dam, it wouldn't be there.
Well, a lot of the lakes wouldn't be there without a dam.
Well, I'm not gonna argue your point. But I'm saying Long Lake would be there.
So this, yeah, see, this is all green.
Because
One,
Long Lake
two,
is deep.
some darker ones, which means it must have
What?
Sebago would be there.
Yeah, it's a big one.
value of
Sebago.
2. Tidal
Yeah.
waters,
But most of
maybe
these
it's a
were to
tidal
get lumber
water.
down.
This one surprised me, because that's such a nice looking lake.
Undeveloped habitat blocks, value of 2. You can just kind of look, rare plant, and see, yeah, interesting.
Interesting. I own part of this and part of that. I have to get a value on.
I'm right there. I back up to this thing, I back up to, my land actually hits the Sweden buffer, so,
But you're not in Sweden.
no, I could throw a stone into it if I wanted to, right?
The road,
Yes, and-
they had to move the road, actually, the end of
You're
the road
right,
was
yeah.
in Sweden.
They wouldn't let it go through Sweden.
I think it's interesting to look at the undeveloped map, the first one, and then look at this as well and see how those overlap.
Yes.
The open space plan is addressing this,
Oh, good.
Okay.
just an FYI, so
Good.
that's gonna be.
So how will we be able to integrate that? Will we be able to say, for instance, some of these areas of high value, wherever they are, I'm gonna pick one that might not be, but, you know, whenever I drive along Upper Ridge and Middle Ridge Road, particularly Upper Ridge Road, there's tremendous views, you know, big hillsides, wide open land,
And big lots.
and and some big lots,
Some big.
yes, farming and all of that. And so say you wanted to
Right in
preserve
here.
that for open space, how would you do that? Would you eliminate certain uses?
I mean, if you're going off of view shed and things like that, you might wanna look at, open space zone or something like that.
Ah, okay.
But, I mean,
And you could keep buildings low, you could keep land open,
yeah,
yeah.
I
But that
just-
would have to be designated by an ordinance that that's an open space or.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
A view shed.
yeah, I would have to go
Yeah.
to
Right.
the voters and everything.
Right.
But, I mean, I think that's also a very careful process, because the more you conserve land,
Right.
then the higher the property values and the less affordable housing. So
Yes,
it's a
and that's
very,
it.
very
Curious.
careful balance, and that's why I would really limit it to habitat significance.
Well,
Because, I mean, you look at these zones that are extremely important to our water, which is, you know, a big economic driver for the town, I would focus on these,
Yeah.
the water quality.
but if you've got the best view of Mount Washington around, which you do from Upper Ridge Road,
Well, unless you're at Ralph's house.
well, that's true.
Well, actually, that view from Upper Ridge Road
But
is
that
pretty
view is
stupendous.
pretty good, because even from, Freiburg, you can't see
But
that
what
much.
you could do is, instead of calling it open space, you could say, same as what I've talked about down from Venezia to the Freiburg line, where you want to preserve corridors, but you could say where is it, somewhere over here, here's Upper Ridge and Middle Ridge. What you could say is, and then you got, where's Highland Road? Highland
Right
Road's
there.
right here, right?
Yeah.
So this whole area is high ground. And it's all rural neighborhood, and what you could say is, you could just take the lots that encompass this high area and just restrict, just call it a different district, and don't get rid of uses like single-family dwelling units, but you maybe get rid of uses that, may not, would.
Commercial uses.
Yeah, well, certain commercial uses, like for instance,
The golf course is there.
What?
Isn't going away.
right, yeah.
Golf courses,
Some of this is
obviously,
rural
grandfather.
neighborhood, some of this is rural neighborhood. And in the rural neighborhood, you're allowed to have outdoor boat storage. Now, it can only be 35 feet high, but
Maybe there you'd
who
want to make
really
it
wants
20
that on
feet.
Upper Ridge
Right.
Road?
Make it a
You
boat
don't.
storage.
So you could maybe
Harrison Marina.
limit the
Did he
size
say he
of
wasn't gonna
something.
store boats there?
Where?
Oh, at the new place?
Yeah.
Yes, he did say that.
Yes, he did
Aren't the
say.
all the boats behind there with the white plastic his?
I don't know.
No, that's the,
Might be
No,
the other
that's
guy.
Long. Long Lake has all used blue plastic.
oh,
I don't know.
so he stored boats then?
I don't know, it might be temporary, Brenda might.
But it was, he had the other lot right next to him, that's
Yeah,
what.
But
it
that
was.
would be that would be the thing to do to me, is to say, this area here is a different district, you know, than, you know, I don't know, this area, you know, whatever. The rural neighborhood is just so big, you know.
But you have to wait and get those open space designations before you can.
Yeah.
This is a different.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that that's the best idea in the world, it's just an
Well,
idea, you know?
I already know that on Highland Road, if somebody decides that where this field is here, where Chadbourne Hill is, and that's not Lakeside neighborhood, I think that's right in here. No, wait a minute, there's Upper Ridge. So it's right here, it is right there.
Yeah, the ski area.
Yeah,
The whole
so
ski
right
area
in here
goes
is a big old farm, okay, with lots of land.
You're talking about the cross-country stuff, right?
Yeah, but that's down more in here, but there's another
It
set of,
goes all the way into the
Yeah.
golf course.
there's another set of property right here. So if somebody bought that and decided they were gonna put a 35-foot high indoor boat unit, storage unit, or outdoor storage unit there, we would have people here ready, there would be 100 people here objecting.
Well, what about a tennis lawn? I mean, there's lots of other uses that they could have.
It's just something to think about for the future.
A huge
Right.
structure.
I'm not saying they'd wanna do that, because they probably would rather be in a more convenient place.
But if you had
Right.
something that was designated a view shed, here it is,
Yeah.
so that you could respond to that.
I think the open space plan is gonna give out some great ideas. They're
Okay.
gonna have a
Good.
plan.
Mhm.
So, that's gonna be finished in June,
In
Well,
June?
very
good.
soon.
Okay.
So, I'm hesitant to throw out any other ideas before
You
that
know,
comes out.
Kevin, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was gonna ask Tori if she could tell everybody here what meeting they should attend next Wednesday.
Yes, April 26th is, our next meeting, 9 AM. You guys are all invited to the CDAC meeting because our consultants will be presenting on the open space plan.
Okay,
So you're
Okay,
all
I'll
welcome
write
to
this
come
down.
on Zoom or in person.
So it's next,
Okay,
where is it?
26,
And
at
it's 9 AM?
9
Yes, and
AM.
the Zoom link is always on the agenda on the CDAC page.
yeah.
So
CD.
that is open to
Okay.
any and all who want to
Okay,
hear.
everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.
Back to regular order, so we can close the meeting, please. Please,
Do you
take your seats, please.
do you want to?
Not quite.
Not
So
quite.
Tori also provided some information to all of us about the wastewater. Kathy has some questions. I'd suggest we let Kathy and Tori sort that out. Kathy knows what she's asking for. Tori did get some additional answers. Okay?
Yes.
So
Sure.
that's gonna help us figure out, you know, maybe how many more units we can actually hook up in town.
It's
Might
at
be
350, right?
Those are hookups, but they're not units.
Right, that's the thing. The gallons just makes our life easier if we can convert
He
everything
did
to
a
gallons.
build-out analysis, how come they didn't provide it to us?
I don't know.
Yeah, we
Ask
got the high
nicely.
cut. Just
I know.
give us the
She can't
data.
give up all of her secrets at once.
I did try to
There
get
should be a public.
She
the
tried.
analysis. If you saw the email, I did
I
try.
did, I know you did.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's public record.
I know. I will try, I'll try to get that in the drive as soon as possible, the
Okay,
full
yeah,
analysis.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Any other wastewater stuff you have, I see you have a little piece of paper that'd be great.
Yes, so this is on the drive. This
Oh, good.
is our existing, what we have on Wayside.
Life easier, I can go back and fill that in my,
As easy as.
So that's-
And this is the ball field.
The gallonage.
So we have Wayside and the ball field, what is being used now and what is available.
Oh, good.
Very
Yes.
good.
So this is just our existing system.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
That helps.
So we
That's-
have that,
that's a start.
and so, I know it's not in gallons, but we do have,
But does it have EDU?
this is calculated by EDU, yes.
Yeah, so you can convert it
I
to
can
gallons.
convert
Right. So for Wayside, we have 72 available. The ball field, 115. So
And
we
that's-
still
that-
have quite a
We
bit
still have
available
quite a bit available.
in our, under our current capacity. So there is that. Then shortly before the meeting, I did get that in gallons already. So
Yep.
that's in the drive as well.
Yeah, I calculated that at least for March, the average flow was 22,000 gallons per day.
What's the plans, new plans?
The new plant is supposed to be up to 116,000, but what we don't have is when we add in all the people that are supposed to be adding in, like the hospital, that's gonna be a pretty hefty.
Well, if it goes by the,
That's
if
right.
it goes by the road, you gotta count it.
Yes.
Otherwise, because they can book in any time.
Well, so far, they haven't run the pipe down my street yet. But they will, they will.
Oh, it'll be like driving on
I-
a
Okay.
road road.
It's already been,
It's already bad.
yeah,
All right.
we've already had our.
Great. I thank you, Tori and Kathy, for
Yeah, thank
working
you.
on that.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. I think I might have put, oh no, that, I did put 3 things in. One was just the email from Brent that you all saw.
I'm gonna try and get DECD to have a meeting with us, whether it's at one of our workshop meetings or another meeting. They're also willing to come. I think we could maybe get them to get a Zoom on the Intertown group.
Great.
I would like permission, I mean, I don't think it's an issue, but I'd like continued permission that, I'm gonna continue to go to the Q&A sessions. You are all are more than welcome. If we're gonna have a quorum, just let me know so I can say we're not conducting business.
Where are they held?
They're Zoom every Tuesday until the end of May.
Oh,
At,
Zoom.
at 10 a.m., I believe.
There was a list you provided. of-
Yeah, I sent you an email. So, I'd just like the board's permission to continue to pepper them with
for it.
questions.
Yes.
Yeah, just need consensus.
Okay, good. So now, whoever wants to end the meeting is welcome to do it. I'll end it.
Motion to adjourn.
Ken moves to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Dee. All in favor, please raise your hand. Adjourn. Thank you, everybody.